Introduction. Ever been in one of those days where you just seem to be getting on the wrong side of everyone? Heck, you might even have felt that you were getting on the wrong side of yourself. Being angry, seething with rage and frustration for the whole day. That does not sound very good, does it? Now picture this. What if you got out of bed feeling a little down and out of sorts? Maybe it's that big project dateline looming, or that fearsome meeting with the boss. Or it might just be the after effects of that hurricane-like argument you had with your partner last night. Whatever it is, you know in the pit of your stomach that this mood really had the potential to ruin your day. It might end up like what happens earlier, stepping on everyone's toes and clipping your own wings. Or it might be a case where you actually know what is going on and are able to masterfully handle your own emotions. You have just diffused a potential time bomb, and it all came down to your knowledge and understanding of your very own emotions. How would you like to have at least a chance to know what to do and how to do it whenever emotions threaten to boil over and actually start impacting your business and personal relationships? With this book, you are actually well placed to begin exploring how to do that. You are probably quite a logical person. You may know what 2 and 2 equals, but how emotionally intelligent are you? Do you feel that you are in control of your emotions, or do they sneak up on you when you are not prepared? What about the emotions of other people? Are you capable of handling them and calming situations? If you can do either of these, then you are heading towards emotional intelligence. Although many cannot do this balancing act. They are too self-absorbed and let their emotions rule their lives. Or they are intolerant of others and lack empathy. Imagine a manager in a business. He has to have a certain amount of emotional intelligence to be able to get the most from his workforce. That means being able to do the following: able to use active listening, able to diffuse difficult situations, able to control his own emotions. Bosses who do not possess these abilities are not very good bosses, and we all know them. These are people who are too egoist or who don't keep staff very long because their own view towards colleagues is that they are at work for a purpose and nothing else. They forget that people are also human beings with emotional responses. However, when you find entrepreneurs these days that do well for themselves, what you find as well is that colleagues and friends are happy to praise those bosses who inspire them. I remember seeing an article once where people who work with Richard Branson were telling readers about the positive energy they were able to get from his leadership. He himself said in the same interview that he employed people who were energetic and clever because it allowed him to place trust in others who could do specific jobs better than he could. Thus, one can see that emotional intelligence means being able to understand the needs of employees and balance them with the needs of the business. On a personal basis, people who exercise emotional intelligence will show the following traits. They will listen to others. They will know how to empathize. They are genuine people who can be trusted. There is something else that sets emotionally intelligent people apart from those who do not have this gift. Emotionally intelligent people are aware of their own strengths and weaknesses and can use different emotions to advantage. For example, a poet may be aware that he writes better when he is upset. A mathematician may realize that his powers of analytical investigation are better when he is depressed. Emotional intelligence helps in so many ways because it makes the path through the maze of life easier. And if you can foster this kind of emotional intelligence and make it part of your life, you will not only get on better with people, but you are likely to put yourself in a direct line for promotion and be able to achieve more than those around you who do not have this gift. It is not something that gains you qualifications, but it is something that gains you a quality of life. Those who have a high IQ are different from those who have a high level of EI or emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence keeps you in control of your life in a good way. You will find all the triggers that start your emotions stirring are within your control when you have analyzed them and know how to control them. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is not something you can see or measure in real terms, but it is something which can be displayed and felt every single day of your life. Emotional intelligence, or EQ in its shortened terms, is the ability to understand and control your emotions. By doing this, you can avoid spur-of-the-moment, rash decisions and reactions, which can go on to have far-reaching and sometimes disastrous results. Of course, there is more to it than that. EQ allows you to not only understand and recognize your own emotions, but the emotions of others. By doing this, you can help develop closer ties and better relationships, which will benefit you in a work setting, as well as in private and friendship-type relationships. We often don't say how we feel. We often show it. And if you can't see the cues, how are you supposed to recognize what you're not hearing? There are a huge number of benefits to increasing your emotional intelligence level, and we're going to go into a bit more detail on these shortly. For now, we need to know about the definition and why it is so vitally important in today's always switched on, always connected world. Why is emotional intelligence so important today? You might wonder why it is so vital to be emotionally intelligent generally, but in this day and age, the importance grows tenfold. We are constantly on guard for various events coming our way, and the rise of social media has not helped matters at all. We need to be switched on constantly, always contactable, always checking someone's news feed for updates, always comparing ourselves to the latest selfie and vacation pictures. And before you know it, we feel positively burnt out and second best. Comparisons are easy to come by. We never feel like we're good enough. We're always second-guessing ourselves, wondering if we're making the right choices, wondering if we're missing the point. Put simply, today's world is hard work. By increasing your own level of emotional intelligence, you can help yourself avoid all of that negativity and instead focus on living your own best life and reaching your aims. The best part? You'll be much happier for it too. Being light on your feet and knowing that no matter what, you'll get through and manage any situation and feeling which comes your way is one of the best feelings around. Stress is something we all know about because we're supposed to wear so many hats over the course of the day. We need to succeed in this role at work, that role at home, be this type of friend, be that mother, that father, do this, do that. It is so overwhelming and stressful that it is no wonder so many people begin to display signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression. It's all often a direct reflection on the type of society and time we live in. For this very reason alone, emotional intelligence is vital. By being sure of who you are, what you want, what you believe, and by being able to harness and control your feelings, that sense of calmness and balance will override everything else. Instead, you will be able to detox your life of negativity and drama and focus on the good stuff. That is what life is about, after all. Of course, in a work situation, we also need to be able to communicate with a huge variety of different people, thanks to the fact that the world has become so much smaller. Technology has brought the four corners of the planet closer, and that means being able to overcome difficulties and communicate effectively. You might not think that being able to harness your emotions will allow you to do that, but it really can. A sense of confidence and calmness, a sense of knowing that you are right where you need to be and that you're great at what you do, that's something money can't buy, and something which will help you bypass many of life's difficult situations in work or at home. We've never lived in such highly connected, stressful times, and emotional intelligence is now more important than it has ever been before. Difference between IQ and EQ. I've been asked about the difference between IQ and EQ several times. People wonder how emotional quotient can be a bigger determinant of our success compared to intelligence quotient. Both IQ and EQ are a form of intelligence, only different kinds of intelligence. while IQ measures or evaluates an individual's cognitive abilities such as logical reasoning, memory, motor skills, and other similar abilities. EQ is a person's ability to understand and regulate his or her feelings along with those of other people. All the knowledge, formal education, and technical skills you've acquired so far contribute to your intelligence quotient. Cognitive abilities and technical skills determine how competent you will be when it comes to performing the actual task. However, this form of intelligence is not sufficient to determine an individual's life success. In addition to cognitive abilities, we also need to be able to master the art of managing our and other people's emotions to develop rewarding relationships and be more productive. Unless you are living in the jungle, you need emotional intelligence to deal with other people. Let's look at a scenario to understand how emotional intelligence works versus regular intelligence quotient. You've just bagged a highly prestigious and coveted project from a client that several others were vying for. As the project leader, you've been given top performers as part of your team. These people are known for their ace technical skills, problem-solving abilities, and vast knowledge. Now, the project involves several hours of back-breaking work. The team may have to stay well past their work hours on weekdays and sometimes work weekends too to finish the project on time. With your own sound knowledge, technical skills, and cognitive abilities, you are capable of leading well. Considering this is a high-pressure project, will you be able to convince your team members to put in the extra time and effort while also staying motivated throughout the duration of the project? You don't just have to ensure the job is done, you also have to ensure it is done well, which means you need a highly motivated workforce. With your superior technical abilities, you may be able to help them develop the right skills. However, your emotional quotient will keep them inspired, encouraged, and motivated to put in their best even when the going gets tough. You will have to work towards managing their stress and emotions to get them to be productive in a high-pressure environment. While your technical skills are a consequence of your intelligence, your ability to lead from the front by managing the team's actions, thoughts, and behaviors are directly influenced by emotional intelligence. By gaining insights about the team's feelings, emotions, aspirations, motivators, passions, fears, desires, and more, you can lead them to greater productivity. It becomes easier to get people to behave and respond in a certain way when you have powerful information about their emotions at your fingertips. What is it that primarily drives people? Some people may respond wonderfully to appreciation, while others may prefer monetary rewards. Still others may like to accomplish something to make their family proud of them. When you find out what emotions drive people to perform, you can use the information to channelize their productivity. What leads people to act in a certain way? For example, your cognitive abilities will not help you understand why a particular employee may create drama to attract attention. If you are emotionally intelligent, you may identify self-esteem issues or the need to be accepted or recognized. Similarly, you may realize that some employees react more positively to public appreciation than others. Once you realize what motivates or drives each employee, it's easier to persuade them to do what you want. Emotional intelligence allows you to tap into the underlying emotions that drive people's behavior, in contrast to intelligence quotient that is concerned with an individual's technical finesse, knowledge, or cognitive abilities. With intelligence, you can train people to get the job done. However, with emotional intelligence, you can manage their actions to get the job done by tapping into their key emotional drivers. Individuals with a high emotional quotient can express, recognize, and regulate their emotions, while also being able to gauge other people's emotions accurately. They have a higher capacity for processing and perceiving other people's emotions. People with a high intelligence quotient, on the other hand, are experts at absorbing, comprehending, and applying skills and knowledge. They possess high reasoning powers, greater creativity and out-of-the-box thinking for problem solving, and evolved abstract thinking. Emotional quotient today is one of the single largest factors for success in the workplace. However, both IQ and EQ work in tandem for ensuring a person's overall success. For example, sometimes the knack of gaining awareness of and the ability to manage your and other people's emotions can be pointless if it isn't backed by a sufficient technical prowess. You can't just go on managing people without possessing the right technical skills. While intelligence is closely linked to the brain's nourishment throughout our academic and growing up years, EQ evolves over a period based on learning behaviors, responses to our emotions, and experiences. However, EQ is currently the buzzword in corporate circles because when every candidate is equally trained, experienced, skilled, and qualified for the position, EQ distinguishes the average employee from future visionaries and leaders. It is a form of intelligence that can be perpetually developed while being more complex and including a more extensive range of actions and behavior controllers. Benefits of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is our ability to manage our and others' emotions by discriminating amongst these feelings and using the information to guide our words, thoughts, and actions. To cut a long story short, emotional intelligence is an aggregation of your mental and emotional skills. Emotional intelligent people enjoy a multitude of benefits in all spheres of life, including relationships, career, and social life. Here are some ways in which your life can be impacted or benefited if you consciously focus on developing high emotional intelligence. Stellar productivity. Emotional intelligence has a high correlation with an individual's work performance. Research has revealed that emotional intelligence is twice as crucial as technical or cognitive abilities, even among professions such as engineering. Emotionally intelligent managers, supervisors, and leaders are way more effective in managing teams, motivating people, and negotiating. They create a more positive atmosphere with happier workers who are an asset to any organization. Happier workers translate into higher morale, low absenteeism, reduced attrition rate, and higher productivity. This leads to happier customers, more sales, and higher profits. Thus, emotional intelligence is an invaluable trait when it comes to success at the workplace. Whilst everyone within an organization possesses more or less the same technical competency and educational qualifications, only a few rise up the corporate ladder because of their ability to manage people and their emotions. An emotionally intelligent leader who understands the true value of identifying and managing emotions can empower his or her subordinates with these skills on a daily basis. Discipline or self-regulation is essential when it comes to keeping your emotions in check, avoiding panic, remaining calm, and being an asset to the team. Emotionally intelligent folks have little trouble in recognizing and managing potentially destructive emotions that can create stress and lower productivity. The approach is calmer, more confident, and efficient. Rather than experiencing a more touchy view, these folks depend on their ability to possess a more realistic view of themselves and others. Coping with life challenges. Don't you look at some people and wonder how they're able to stay afloat through the most challenging situations and emerge even more successful than before? Chances are these guys score high on emotional intelligence. Emotionally intelligent folks have the ability to calm their body and mind, to view things from a clearer and more objective perspective. Their acts are more mindful and less panic-struck. Greater calmness, objectivity, and clarity award you more resilience when life's challenges are concerned. Think about the kung fu fighter who can take on the most powerful opponents by constantly working on martial arts skills. Emotional intelligence equips you with those skills to take on the toughest challenges life throws at you with resilience. greater compassion in personal and work life. One of the best benefits of high emotional intelligence is your ability to demonstrate more compassion for others, both in the personal and professional sphere. This compassion allows them to connect with people at much deeper levels to forge meaningful relationships. Compassion can be manifested in several ways, including helping someone dealing with a personal issue by taking on their responsibilities or making small everyday decisions for the comfort or convenience of your employees. Compassion helps you meaningfully connect with people both in your personal and professional life. You are able to reach out to people efficiently, forge more mutual fulfilling relationships, and create an atmosphere of harmony and productivity. Emotional intelligence awards you greater compassion in dealing with people in various personal, professional, and social scenarios. Boosted leadership skills. Emotionally intelligent folks possess a highly evolved ability in recognizing and understanding factors that drive others, which makes them amazing leaders. They are able to make the most of this invaluable information to strengthen their loyalty and forge stronger relationships with people. A competent leader is intuitively tuned into the most compelling aspirations and desires of his followers. He knows the hot buttons of his employees and exactly how to channelize these hot buttons to increase overall productivity and positivity within the work environment. Emotionally intelligent leaders know how to channelize this information for extracting better performance and productivity from people and keeping them happy. People with high emotional quotient excel at recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of people and harnessing an individual's virtues for the benefit of the team. High emotional intelligence creates better leaders who are able to inspire greater faith and loyalty by using their team's or followers' emotional range. They are more aware of their emotions, which allows emotionally intelligent folks to create a harmonious environment. Practicing emotional intelligence makes you a better leader. Did you know that 67% of all competencies said to be fundamental for the high performance in the professional sphere is emotional intelligence? Take the example of the world's most successful CEOs. Amazon's Jeff Bezos passionately talks about getting right into the hearts of his customers in a 2009 YouTube video while announcing the company's Zappos acquisition. When Howard Schultz of Starbucks was a child, his father lost a health insurance claim. This turned him into one of the most empathetic CEOs, who is well known for showing his employees thoughtfulness by offering generous healthcare rewards. Little wonder then that these folks are as successful as they are. They understand the emotional pulse of their employees and customers to keep them emotionally gratified. Emotional intelligence helps in building emotional maturity, boosting social intelligence, preventing relationship problems, enhancing interpersonal communication, helping control emotions, dealing with stress, influencing leadership, helping authorities make sound business change decisions, supporting staff, and controlling resistance to change. Lower chances of addiction and other emotional disorders. Addictions are generally a direct result of our inability to cope with emotions. People who struggle to come to terms with their emotions use addiction as a mechanism to avoid the more underlying and deeper prevailing issues. When you fail to recognize and manage negative emotions, there develops an unfortunate pattern of dependency on external factors such as food, nicotine, substance, alcohol, porn, and the likes. Addiction is just a means to escape from emotions that you aren't willing to deal with. Emotionally intelligent folks are lesser prone to addiction because of their awareness of their emotions and the ability to manage these emotions. They have a solid understanding of their feelings and do not struggle to deal with it. Since emotional intelligence makes you happier, more confident, and balanced, there is a lesser propensity for dependence on destructive coping mechanisms. They adapt more easily to challenges and changing scenarios in life. Emotionally intelligent people are competent in resolving differences and coming up with more positive solutions. Since they display such high understanding of theirs and other emotions, it becomes easier for them to deal with conflicts. Emotionally healthy people are less prone to be victims of drug abuse or binge eating disorders, which predominantly originate from much deeper psychological issues. Boosted employee morale and lower attrition. Morale may be an intangible concept in the corporate world, but its effects are highly measurable. You may not realize the value of high morale when it's there, but you will definitely know it when it's missing. Think about the lateness, early departures, attrition, sick leaves your company suffers from. When leaders take the time to build emotional intelligence and connect with their team members, it reflects in the employee morale. Emotionally intelligent leaders who build strong emotional ties with subordinates witness improvement in the team's morale, lower measurable absenteeism, a higher team spirit, and a greater desire to contribute to an organization's success. The emotional intelligence skill building cost can be minimal, however, the return on investment can be extremely high. Let's get real here and call a spade. Employees do not really quit roles, they quit senior managers. It is about escaping people and not positions. Emotionally intelligent leaders who recognize emotional triggers quickly pick up emotional clues of their team members and customize their approach to each member's unique emotional makeup and motivation will experience greater success in retaining employees. This should not be mistaken with not doing justice to one's own voice or feelings. It simply means presenting an accurate emotional response towards each team member to treat them with greater compassion, respect, and empathy. The problem with most managers who do not understand the concept of emotional intelligence is that they use a one-size-fits-all approach for dealing with all employees, without understanding the emotional framework, motivators, and goals of individual team members. This one-size-fits-all approach does not produce flattering results because personalities vary. Some people are more intrinsically motivated, while others thrive on extrinsic motivation. Some folks are quick to reveal their emotions. Others aren't very comfortable sharing their feelings. Once you understand the emotional makeup of people, it becomes easy to deal with them more efficiently. Fine communication skills. People with a well-developed emotional quotient are more efficient when it comes to expressing themselves. They possess the ability to listen attentively to other people's verbal clues while also tuning into their nonverbal communication. They know exactly what to say to channelize people's strength. They use the right words and nonverbal signals to help people feel at ease. There is little scope for misunderstanding whilst communicating with a person who has high emotional intelligence. Emotionally intelligent people are well aware about the most compelling emotional triggers of people around them. They know exactly how to inspire people to act. People who are able to communicate by emotionally connecting with are far more effective than technically competent folks who fail to demonstrate empathy while communicating with people. Emotional intelligence awards you better response skills. How to improve your social skills. How to master your emotions. It's important to realize that in the context of emotional intelligence, the only reason a person takes any decision is to change the way they feel. Our feelings are tied to our actions, and that's how we conduct our day-to-day lives. For example, if a person feels unhappy with how much money they're making, they are driven to make more so they can feel happy. If they feel depressed about their weight, to remove that feeling and to feel better, they can begin working out and implement a weight loss plan. If you want to ultimately master your emotions, you have to first identify what is it you are really feeling. Take time for yourself to understand your emotions and work through what emotions you are feeling. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What is the emotion overpowering me? Is it anger, sadness, depression? It's important that you take the time to work through the mix of emotions and identify what the overlying emotion is. Only you can acknowledge how you are feeling and give a name to that emotion. Once you identify how you are feeling, ask yourself what the meaning behind this emotion is. Why are you feeling this way, and what does it mean for the situation at hand? Are you overcome with grief at the death of a family member? Are you angry about a situation at work? Once you have identified your emotion, you should feel confident about it because you have given it a label. Don't let yourself be overpowered by your emotion or feel helpless against it. Remind yourself that you might have felt this emotion before and you successfully handled the situation. If you handled it before, you can handle it again today. The last step is to take action once you are able to handle this emotion and decide what it means for you. When you first identify the emotion, it's important to take some action to push away bad emotions or to prolong happy emotions. Whether it's fear, hurt, anger, or happiness, these emotions are encouraging you to take some action. Once you are cognitively able to identify your emotions, you can take action regarding them. Another tip to better connect with your emotions is to channel your emotional energy creatively. Keeping a journal is a great way to write about your thoughts and feelings as they occur so you can feel as if you are sharing those thoughts. It can be a way to vent, but also a way to later look back and read about the strong emotions at a certain point in your life. If you're an artist, then drawing or painting can be a way to capture your emotions at the time. Whether you compose music, write, paint, channeling your emotional energy to a creative outlet can ensure you are able to recognize the emotions you feel and give yourself some time to deal with them. How to improve your social skills. Listen carefully to others. If you want to have better social skills with people around you, it's only natural that the first step is giving these people your undevoted attention and listening carefully to them. Listen to their words, but also observe and give careful attention to nonverbal language. Body language is the key. How is a person holding themselves physically? What does their posture look like? What are they doing with their hands? Do they look comfortable or tense? Many psychologists say that microexpressions or minute expressions of the face and facial expressions are more telling than the actual words someone is saying. When you are focusing on someone, you want to better understand their feelings. It's important to consider many different verbal and nonverbal cues. Practice active listening instead of passive listening. In other words, be engaged with the person who is speaking and focus on them entirely. Face them with an open posture and maintain eye contact. Listen to the person's words and rephrase their words to ensure you clearly understand what they are trying to convey. If you have any questions or you are unsure, be sure to ask questions instead of assuming their emotional state. You don't want them to be uncertain about their feelings. As an active listener, you should be engaged with their words so you can gain a clear understanding of how they are feeling. Start to empathize. When you understand what emotions someone is feeling by listening and observing them, as described above, that's a good first step. But if you want to gain insight into why they are feeling that way, you must try to understand their point of view. Imagine how you would feel in the situation they're going through. Whether it's physical, emotional, financial, whatever, you can only empathize with the other person if you leave the safe bubble you're in and attempt to put yourself in their shoes. Visualize what their problems are and how you would react in such a way. What kind of emotions would you be feeling if you were going through a job loss or the death of a parent or cheating spouse? Would you feel those same emotions? By putting yourself in their situation, you are developing stronger emotional skills and empathizing with the fellow human being. This skill might seem trivial, but it is very important in our society as a whole, so we can relate to people from backgrounds different than us. Reflecting on your emotions. After you have successfully empathized with a person, that's when the reflection process begins. You have to reason with the emotions you have felt by empathy and put a label on them cognitively. Is the other person sad or depressed? Are they angry or humiliated? How are they responding to the situation they're in, and is it reasonable? Is this a dangerous emotion? These are questions to ask when you are reflecting on the emotions that accompany all of us in our lives. By asking these questions, it becomes easier to understand the emotions and what steps you can take from there. It's not enough that you recognize your emotions, but also realize what steps to take on them. If you are hurting, it is necessary you need to take some time alone to heal yourself and process your emotions. If you are happy, you could feel elated and want to prolong this emotion by taking similar steps to ensure you'll feel this way again. If you are angry, you might not be thinking rationally, so you have to take some time to cool down. Interact with different people than you. If you are constantly surrounded by the same people, you will have difficulty learning to read new social cues and how other people relay their feelings. Try and expand your horizons and interact with new people, whether it's in your social circle of friends or work colleagues. By exposing yourself to more people, you are allowing yourself to get to know someone new and see how they portray and relay their emotions. This gives you the ability to seek a variety of emotional cues and body languages, especially people who are from a different cultural background than yourself. Men and women express emotions differently, as do people who are older versus younger people, and people from different ethnic backgrounds. The more diverse relationships you build, the more you will be able to recognize universal signs of emotion that unite all of us. Reading other people's emotions. As mentioned above briefly, communication is more than just the words that are said. Words are just one factor. There are microexpressions, body language, coupled with pitch and tone of voice. All of these factors combine in our methods of communication. Being able to identify these traits will allow you to read other people's emotions, whether it's your colleagues, parents, or significant other. Here are some tips on learning to read someone else's emotions. Understanding that words aren't everything, it seems silly to say considering you're reading a book on emotional intelligence, but it's the truth. If you're only focusing on someone's words, you will be easily fooled. You might miss the meaning behind the words. You have to first realize there is more to communicating than just the words being spoken. You must focus on other factors to gain the whole story on how a person may be feeling. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. We've all heard this saying before, and it's the absolute truth. The tone of a person can reflect on the context of their words and their mood. Although the words can mean one thing, the tone can say something completely different. For example, think about when a husband is late meeting his wife for a date. He could be apologizing for the delay, and his wife might say, "Oh, I'm sure you tried to make it on time." If the way she says it is in a soft, affectionate tone, it could be that she has no hard feelings for him being late. If her tone is sarcastic and judgmental, then even though she is saying words that sound like she's fine with him being late, she could actually be angry. The tone behind the words is what is important, despite what words are being said. Pay attention to the pitch of someone's voice. Pitch is the high or low factor of someone's voice and can convey a strong emotional message. For example, if someone's voice is very monotonous and even-toned, we can infer they feel bored or disinterested with a topic, even if their words say otherwise. That can definitely be the pitch of a voice when students are bored in class. If someone's voice is high-pitched, it could be a sign they're trying to conceal their feelings, but their voice is giving it away. Pay attention to a person's facial expressions. In all cultures throughout the globe, the concept of facial expressions is present and conveys information about a person's emotions. Microexpressions are short, sometimes even as short as a 30th of a second, but they are important to the observer. A study found there are 7 universal microexpressions. 1. Surprise. This emotion can be conveyed by the eyes opening wide, forehead covered with wrinkles, jaw dropping open, and teeth parting open in shock. 2. Sadness. This emotion can be conveyed by the lips quivering in emotion, the jaw being pulled tight, and the eyebrows drawn into the center of the forehead. 3. Joy. This emotion can be conveyed by the cheeks raised up, lips drawn back and up, wrinkles appearing at the corner of the eyes because of squinting from emotion, and the mouth parting in an exclamation of happiness. 4. Anger. This emotion can be conveyed by the mouth open with the lips tensed, lower jaw sticking out as if clenching your jaw, lips pressed tightly together, eyes bulging out in emotion, and the nostrils could be flaring. 5. Fear. This emotion can be conveyed by the lips tensed back, forehead covered in wrinkles, and brows lifted together to form a line. 6. Contempt. This emotion can be conveyed by the one side of the mouth raised higher and the lips smirking. 7. Disgust. This emotion can be conveyed by the nose furrowed as if to ward off the smell, the lower lip raised up, eyelids raised, and mouth furrowed. Use the cues from physical interaction. When you are interacting with someone, physical cues also occur and give depth to the communication. Think about all the way people convey emotion through touch. There are handshakes that show a sign of hierarchy, especially in a professional setting when it comes to matter of respect. Firmness in a handshake can give off confidence, while a weak handshake is inferred as meek or weak person. Hugs are a common way of showing affection and can relay how a person is feeling depending on if they return the affection or not. If their arms are tight around you and holding you close, you can feel touched that they are returning the affection. If they are weak in your arms and hands are limp at their sides, then they are too overcome with emotion to return the hug. Little touches are especially important in a romantic relationship. One of the first signs of trouble between a couple is when small signs of physical touch between them stop. Look at body language cues. It is important that we pay close attention to body language to try and decipher how someone is feeling. The face and body can convey powerful emotions even if someone's words are not doing the explaining. Someone could say they are feeling fine and are not angry about a situation, but their body language could show them as very tense and avoiding eye contact and holding themselves very rigid. Cues like this can indicate that despite their words, they are feeling anger at the news. If someone is sad, you will notice their body is held very limp, and they are maybe wringing their hands together in agony. If someone is happy, they will often be jumping up and down and very animated. Someone who is embarrassed may be flushed or blushing profusely. They may be faking a smile and looking away to avoid eye contact. Such cues like this are important to understand so that you can reach out to people around you when you recognize their emotions, even if they are hiding what they are feeling. The eyes are the window to the soul. This famous Shakespeare quote is very well known because you can always look into someone's eyes and read how they feel about a situation. It's not just the presence of tears or not, but the pupils can contract and constrict to show interest in a situation. Dilated pupils signify interest, while constricted pupils scientifically show the person is disinterested. When a person's eyes move back and forth erratically, it's a sign they're uncomfortable or insecure. If they're avoiding eye contact, then it could be a sign they're angry towards you or the situation at hand. It might sound hard to believe, but the truth is a person's eyes can show a sense of serenity or turbulence, especially when it comes to people you are close with. Looking meaningful into someone's eyes can give you a read on their emotions. Leave your bias out of it. It might seem simple, but the truth is we are colored with a bias towards certain races, religions, or types of people. Sometimes these are implicit biases we cannot help, but nonetheless, they may color our perceptions of the people we may come to interact with. If you want to truly gain emotional intelligence and improve your social skills, you must realize that biases have no place in a relationship and drop any minute prejudices you may hold. You cannot truly put yourself in another person's shoes and be empathetic if you are clouded by prejudices and cannot see them clearly. Only when you accept a person for who they are can you clearly see their situation and sympathize with them. What makes EQ special? Emotional intelligence is more than just something relating to knowing what people feel. It is to understand and recognize what can be done to help others, or at least to get along with them. It is through a person's EQ that someone can get the most out of life. Anyone who has a high level of emotional intelligence will be more likely to succeed and thrive in one's work. There are several positives of one's EQ that must be explored. These points are vital for the workplace in particular as they relate to what people can do to move forward and thrive in their jobs. Get along with people. A workplace is often a challenging place. Each person brings their personalities, their biases, and their different levels of intelligence and experience to the work environment. They have to work in harmony, and this is not always easy. There is also the added pressure of competition involved. Personal relationships outside of the workplace can be difficult at times as well. People often struggle with maintaining friendships. Finding a long-lasting romantic relationship can be challenging to some people. Those with a high EQ are better equipped to get along with others. A high EQ individual will understand the ups and downs of relationships and make smart plans to avoid conflicts and to settle disagreements effectively. Become more productive. People who have a high EQ are more likely to be productive. Those people understand what they want out of their lives and aren't afraid of putting in the effort. Let's say that there are two software engineers, Janet and Tom. They are working on the same tasks. Tom does not have much EQ and is not fully aware of what he wants to get out of his work. Janet is on the opposite end in that her EQ is high. Janet feels motivated in her work because she has her emotions in check. She knows how to identify what her coworkers are feeling and is capable of keeping negative emotions from persisting. She can produce her work easily. Tom is different as he is often worried about what will happen and is trapped in a mindset of uncertainty. Janet will do more with her software engineering task because she is comfortable with herself. Her high EQ ensures she will find solutions for concerns she has about the work she is doing. All the added productivity allows someone to have more control over various functions and actions surrounding what one is doing in life. This, in turn, helps that person to feel emotionally positive about life. It becomes easier for many tasks to be done as one's emotions are kept in control. People who are not emotionally intelligent will have a difficult time managing their thoughts, and this will keep them from being productive. A person might become overly worried when a new task is introduced and it is different from what one might be used to. A person with a low EQ might be afraid of what will happen if a project does not go right. All that worry and fear will cause a person to not do well with a task, thus falling into the trap of not knowing what to do to fix a problem or make things work right. Stay accountable. People often shift their responsibilities and try to keep things from being too complicated. They don't want to do things because they resist doing it. Or maybe they are not aware of what to do to fix the problems that happen. Others might not be aware of the circumstances surrounding what they're doing. Accountability is a necessity for people in any workplace. A person who is accountable for one's actions and work is not afraid to accept responsibility for their actions. It is through accountability that a person is capable of showing maturity and is able to recognize the duties and functions one has to enter into every day. This includes not only what is done correctly, but also any errors that might occur. A person with strong EQ will be more likely to stay accountable. Accountability provides a person with the ability to take control of a situation. That person will understand that he or she is doing something valuable or necessary. By working with the right plans, it becomes easy for a person to stay accountable and confident with what one is going to do with life. Easier to manage risks. There are risks to everything in life. A person might get into a car and go driving to the grocery store, but that someone is getting into the risks that the car will malfunction or someone might cause an accident on the road. Meanwhile, a person who plays gridiron football might enjoy playing it, but that individual has the risk of suffering substantial injury like a concussion. There are risks involved in every aspect of every workplace. One of the greatest reasons why errors are often made in the workplace is because workers are not fully aware of the risks and what they can do to lessen them. This can cause people to panic when something happens they did not anticipate. They might not have the emotional fortitude to handle some of the events that occur. Those who can handle and figure out their emotions will have an easier time moving forward and keeping everything under control. A person's emotional intelligence can be utilized to figure out what one's abilities are and how well certain tasks may be completed. Knowing what can be done to fix issues and have a plan for emergencies is essential. Avoid questions. When a person has a low emotional intelligence, they're not certain about the decisions they make. They lack self-confidence. One of the most common questions that a person might ask is what he or she was thinking about in the past. For instance, a man who made a difficult move in the past might ask himself, "What was I thinking? I can't believe I did something that way. Why did I do that?" That man will have failed to use his emotional intelligence. People make rash decisions when they are not thinking about the results or consequences. They might think about the results that they want to attain, but they never think about why they want it or what they can do to maintain those results. Emotional intelligence is needed to help people to have faith in what they are deciding to do. People need emotional intelligence to stay comfortable and focused on whatever it is they want to work on. More importantly, there will be less confusion when a person's EQ is strong. That person will not question their own decisions. People with a high EQ will not likely ask questions of other people in the workplace or in other situations. A person who asks a lot of questions is revealing their low self-esteem and low self-confidence. A matter of trust. People are loyal to people they trust. One person might seem to be more intelligent than another, but what if that smarter person is difficult for people to trust? That intelligent person might seem as stubborn or difficult to work with. That intelligent person might be seen as stubborn or difficult to work with. An intelligent person might not have the emotional intelligence needed to deal with people. When EQ is missing, that person is not capable of understanding or having empathy towards others. But when a person has a high emotional intelligence, that person becomes easier to trust. This leads to added success and control over any situation. It is through a trust that people can stay positive around others. When people trust each other, they are willing to support one another through anything that might come about in the workplace. Trust focuses on people showing that they recognize each other's emotions and are willing to support each other. People who trust one another are likely to get along and feel better in each other's company. Without trust, it becomes hard for a business to grow and thrive. More importantly, a personal or romantic relationship will not get off the ground if the people involved do not trust each other. Managing customers. An interesting part of working with EQ is that it concentrates on how well people are able to interact with each other in the workplace. This includes working with customers in a smart manner. It is easier for businesses to grow when employees have EQ. An employee needs a high EQ to have a sense of empathy with customers. When a person understands the emotions of others, it becomes easier for that someone to market a product. Having an understanding of emotions is vital for success. This is especially true of the workplace when customers are involved. Every customer should be treated with respect and care to ensure there are no problems that can't be dealt with. Let's say that Sally is working to sell a car. She might notice that a customer is nervous about the process of buying a car. She can empathize with the customer and talk with that person about the process. Sally might explain what makes a car an attractive investment. She may also identify questions that people have and provide smart answers to those issues. By using her EQ, Sally is getting in touch with the customer and is showing that she cares about the customer's needs. This will make it easy for her to sell that car to the customer. It is through the EQ of its employees that relationships with customers can be built. When employees are capable of working with customers well, it becomes easier for people to feel comfortable with each other while doing business. A vital foundation for other skills. The emotional intelligence that one has is the foundation of many skills. A person who has a high EQ will have many great skills. Time management. A person will know how to handle one's time and budget certain times of the day for specific tasks. Decision making. People with a high EQ can make the smartest possible decisions. Communication. It is a necessity for a person to communicate with others. A high EQ is often associated with strong communication skills. Stress tolerance. Those who do not have a high EQ will break down under stress. A person might not have an ability to manage certain ideas or actions because that person is incapable of handling the associated stress. Anger management. People who do not have control over their emotions are more likely to become angry because they don't know what to do. When someone has a high EQ, those emotions are easier to manage and allow a person control over situations. Presentation. It will be easier to use one's presentation skills to one's advantage if the person has a high EQ. The presentation is closely associated with the ability to communicate effectively. By having a high EQ, a person has an ability to handle many things in one's life without struggling. How to improve yourself. How to increase your self-esteem. Self-esteem is defined as the realistic appreciation of oneself. Dr. Glenn Schiraldi, the author of the Self-Esteem Workbook, wrote that the concept of human worth is one, but there are different skills and levels of development involved. The worth is tied to many environmental factors such as education, health, and wealth. If you want to increase your self-esteem, you can establish certain steps in your routine to help yourself. Here are a few to begin. Reaffirm your positive traits. Just as we often think negative things about ourselves, we must learn to affirm positive traits as well. For example, maybe you're constantly telling yourself you're a lazy person. You've been telling yourself that for so long that you are believing it and you've internalized that voice. To see yourself positively and improve your self-esteem, try telling yourself the opposite. Tell yourself that you're a good friend, a good daughter, a kind person, a generous person. Just like you've learned to associate negative thoughts with yourself, take the time to repeat to yourself positive thoughts. This way, those will become a new part of you. You know that common exercise of looking in the mirror and talking positively to yourself? Well, it works just like that. Studies show that the more positive things you can write about yourself can actually lessen the symptoms of depression. Avoid comparisons. One of the toughest parts of developing your self-esteem is realizing you cannot compare yourself to others. Too often, we compare ourselves with people around us like family, coworkers, friends, or people we don't even know thanks to the exposure to social media. Whether it's about looks, money, personal possessions, or whatever it may be, the trap of comparing is that you never feel good enough. But the truth is, you have no one you should be comparing yourself to. Self-esteem is feeling the best you can about yourself and comparing yourself only to you. It is about being the best person you can be in a process of discovery and self-growth. When you compare your individual journey to someone else, you will always find when you compare your individual journey to someone else, you will always feel like you are falling short. This invites a feeling of anxiety and stress and can even affect your mental health. To avoid the trap of comparison, surround yourself with people who encourage you and appreciate you. Associate with people who are not concerned about the superficial. And don't be scared to take a social media break. Today's constant bombardment of social media and peeking into other people's lives often messes with our self-esteem. We find ourselves comparing our lives and our looks to other people, even celebrities or people who don't even know us. To avoid this, follow accounts that make you feel inspired or hopeful, and stay away from accounts that make you feel depressed or envious. Your bank account may thank you too. Identify your unique gifts. Everyone has something that they excel at. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Instead of focusing on your weaknesses, focus on what your strengths are and what skills you possess that make you feel confident. Whether it's your skills at work, your creative outlets, your skill on the guitar, or how well you cook, it is important that you are not ashamed of what you do well and channel that energy so you feel confident about yourself. Don't focus on your failures. Focus on your successes. Be proud of your accomplishments. If you are feeling especially at a low point, ask a friend to point out your strong areas. A good friend should be able to compliment you and urge you to focus on your strengths. They will see the best in you even if you are struggling. No one likes arrogance, but it is important to be proud and confident of your strong qualities and accomplishments. Focus on self-care. Whether you are exercising, treating yourself to a spa day, or getting a good night's sleep, it's important that you take care of yourself physically to take care of your mental health. Exercise is proven to release serotonin, a neurotransmitter of the brain that creates feelings of happiness and contentment. Whether it's an hour at the gym or just going for an evening walk before dinner, take some time to exercise so you are physically taking care of yourself. Do something relaxing for yourself after a long week. Treat yourself to a cheat day if you've been sticking to your diet regularly. Whatever it is, you should focus on yourself and making your emotional and mental health a priority. Help others. Studies show that by helping someone else or volunteering can help you feel better about yourself. It takes you out of your mindset and urges you to think about someone else. The best way to increase your feelings of self-worth is volunteering face-to-face, such as at a homeless shelter or soup kitchen. But if you can also donate money or provide services online, then you can also increase your self-worth. You can feel like you are part of a cause and that you are helping people. You have a purpose. This gives value to you and your time, and you feel part of a greater community. This increases your self-worth and self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. Remind yourself that you are not your circumstances. Tell yourself over and over that even if you are going through a tough time right now, you may not be soon. Circumstances occur in our life, and that is something out of our control. As the saying goes, this too shall pass. With hard work, compassion, and patience, whatever tough time you are going through will soon ease itself. Your problems will be solved, and you will feel stronger for having gone through it. This is important to recognize your self-esteem and not let circumstances around you beat you down. How to use self-talk. Self-talk is defined as the way your inner voice makes sense of the world around you and how you communicate with yourself internally. This concept greatly affects how you interact with the world and how you talk to yourself internally. If your self-talk is negative, then you could be creating unnecessary anxiety and stress as you perceive the world through a negative lens. People with positive self-talk tend to see the world more positively and enthusiastically, which can lead them to be more well-rounded and hopeful people in general. The habit of positive or negative self-talk often begins early in our childhood and the people who are around us. The good news is that even if you have a negative self-talk habit, it is never too late to change your outlook. Here are some steps to help you. Identify how you treat yourself. It may sound silly, but try and view how you talk about yourself and how many times you say negative things to yourself in the span of a day. Whether you need to write a journal or simply take some time to meditate, it can be astonishing sometimes to realize how often we speak to ourselves negatively. Use a thought-stopping method to stop yourself from saying something negative in your head. What that method does is urge you to tell yourself to stop midstream when you're having a negative thought. You can even say it out loud if that helps. But the idea is to stop yourself from thinking that way and training yourself against negative thoughts that creep into your mind. Replace the negative statements in your self-talk with positive ones. When you are becoming aware of how you treat yourself and the world around you, you can begin to replace the negative statements with different neutral or positive words. This will help you feel more positive or at least more neutral about the experiences you are going through. For example, if you've gotten to work and are called into an early morning staff meeting, you could find yourself thinking like, I hate these morning meetings. I'm so annoyed that there's another one. Instead, try replacing the negative word angry with a different, milder one to change the way you feel. You can say instead, I don't like these morning meetings. I wish we didn't have them. It seems like a slight difference, but it greatly changes the connotation of the sentence from a negative light to a more neutral one. You can still say you don't care for the meetings, but at least you are not feeling as powerfully angry about it. If your friends cancel plans at the last minute, your gut reaction could be annoyance or irritation. But if you flip the situation and give it a positive spin, you can decide, okay, well, this gives me time to watch more of the new TV show I discovered. When you encounter a challenge and your reaction is an instant negative one, force yourself to stop and change that into a neutral or positive reaction. Change your definitive statements into questions. Definitive emotional statements are the ones we make every day and might not even realize it. For example, when we say things like, this is impossible, or I'm never going to finish this, we are ingraining in ourselves a negative slant to these statements. It only increases our stress and stops you from searching for solutions to solve these problems. You only end up feeling more lost and confused. The next time you come across such a scenario, stop and recognize the things you would say before and turn those statements into questions. Ask yourself, how am I going to finish all this work? Or, how can I solve this problem using my skills? This allows you to focus on the problem and see it as something you can tackle. It urges you to use skills to solve it. Instead of already feeling defeated and overwhelmed, you are forcing yourself to remain neutral in the situation and channel your emotions into action. If you've heard the saying, be your own best friend, then this is all about self-talk. If you had a friend who was overwhelmed or feeling stressed or going through a rough time, how would you treat them? Would you belittle them or say negative things? Would you stress their negative characteristics and say they are not skilled enough to accomplish their tasks? Hopefully, as a good friend, you would not. You would instantly support your friend and praise them, compliment them, and be enthusiastic about them. You would focus on their strengths and urge them to tackle the task at hand. Just as you would be kind to them, you should be kind to yourself as well. How to use visualization and affirmations. Affirmations are statements with a positive tone that work to define your goal and desire and improve the way you view yourself. The technique of using affirmations is to repeat them over and over, so they are embedded in your subconscious and you finally start to believe what you're saying. By believing them, you will follow through on them and accomplish whatever goal you have set for yourself, whether it is about your habits, your personal or professional behavior, or your personality. Creating an affirmation can help your mindset so you can conquer a goal. Think of it like this. Working out at a gym is for your physical body, and using affirmations is for your mind. You want to focus on the stage of life you are in and what you are going through. You want to replace your I can't with I can. You want to remind your unconscious mind about the positives in your life and feel appreciative about the situations you are in, even if it's a tough one. Instead of saying things like, I'm never going to lose this baby weight, or will never understand organic chemistry. Create positive affirmations to replace negative thoughts. Instead, replace those sayings with, I am so thankful for a healthy baby and a smooth pregnancy and labor. And I am so happy I got into one of the top universities in my state. Here are some simple steps to create the positive affirmations you may need to get you through the day. 1. Use the words I am in a present tense to emphasize to yourself that you are going to be doing something and that you will implement this behavior and thought immediately into your life. No future tense, but today. 2. Be positive. Always use an affirmation to say what you want. Don't focus on things you don't want, but what you hope to gain. 3. Be brief and be specific. You want to be focused on what your goal is and exactly what step you need to achieve it. 4. Include an action word so your brain knows there is some activity involved that you need to do to make this goal happen. 5. Make sure your affirmations are for yourself, not other people. This is something you are going to work towards for yourself and your betterment, not for anyone else. This ensures that you will feel more motivated about conquering your goal. Repeat your affirmations to yourself every day, preferably out loud and with energy and enthusiasm. Whether it's taking a minute after you've gotten ready in the morning or saying it before bed at the end of a long day, you want to take some time to remind yourself about these statements. If you have a friend or family member you are close with, you can have them be the ones to remind you about this affirmation throughout your journey to achieving this goal. Visualization is a technique where you clearly work to visualize the future reality you want to be living in. The clearer and more detailed your vision is, the more impact it will have on your subconscious mind. It is a powerful tool that can motivate you for the future success in your life. For example, athletes are always told to imagine their future success, that they've won the World Series or that they have won the Super Bowl in the upcoming season. It's not about confidence per se, but about visualizing your goal coming true and using that feeling to motivate you to make it happen. For example, the famous NBA player Jerry West of the Los Angeles Lakers was known as Mr. Clutch because he was able to sink shots in at the buzzer, which is known as the tensest time in a game. When asked how he was able to do that, he explained that he would practice the shots and imagine the buzzer and the crowd and the pressure surrounding a game. Because he saw that scenario in his head, he was able to use his skills when the situation would occur. Visualization is tied to neurological activity. When we visualize something, our brain's neurons become excited and tell us to follow through on the visual. It creates a neural pathway that prepares our body in a way following the visual we imagined. Even though we haven't physically experienced that vision yet, our brains make it feel very familiar to us so that our body is primed and ready for it to occur. There are two types of visualizations. There are the outcome visualizations and the process visualizations. Outcome visualization is just like it sounds. You are visualizing the goal that you hope to achieve, whether it's becoming valedictorian, winning the Super Bowl, or having a baby. You are imagining the feelings associated with that scenario. All the details you imagine become ingrained in your subconscious until you yearn to make that memory real. Process visualization is about the necessary steps you have to complete to achieve the goal. If you're a runner, instead of jumping ahead to finish the marathon, you have to first imagine yourself competing and running and training and sweating and working out. All steps you need to accomplish before you make it to the finish line. You create that mental image of the process so that you are more prepared as you endure it. Reading body language. There are many instances in life where one's body language might be a challenge. These include cases where a person is overly defensive or otherwise not willing to pay attention. A person with a strong EQ will know how to identify these points and how they might work. Not only that, a high EQ person will understand that certain physical positions mean specific things, thus allowing that person to be more mindful and to avoid getting into certain problems regardless of how various positions are made. People who want to build their EQ should see how body language works in these situations. By knowing how to identify a person's emotions, it becomes easier for someone to get in touch with that person and respond correctly. More importantly, it establishes a sense of empathy where the defensive person will discover there is someone out there who cares about the needs that person holds. The identified emotions in a case will help a person to notice what is happening in a situation. This includes working to understand some of the problems that a person has. At this point, a plan may be devised to figure out how to reach people or how to resolve the problem that someone might encounter. Defensiveness. People are often willing to defend themselves in any way they see fit. Sometimes a person might be so adamant about something that he or she does not want to be proven wrong. That person might insist that he or she is right and will not budge from that opinion. This part of managing emotions does more to hurt the mind. It closes off one's emotions and ability to recognize what others are doing. The appearance of defensiveness also expresses the following. A person might feel nervous and frustrated over something. That someone might be stressed and does not know what to do to resolve a certain problem or situation. A person could also be angry. This might come from things not going in the way one might have wished they could. There are several things to notice when finding someone who appears to be defensive and not ready to make any real changes to one's life. 1. A person's arms are folded. 2. Any facial expressions produced are either halted or slight or otherwise muted. 3. A person could be turning their body away from other people. This is a sign that someone really does not want to talk to other people or be near them. 4. The eyes are cast downward. A person could have a downcast attitude that is keeping that someone from feeling confident. It might be difficult to reach a person because they have some beliefs that are very hard to shake or might otherwise clash with what is being introduced. Knowing how to reach a person at this point and to have a better sense of communication is a necessity for getting a relationship to move along. A lack of engagement. A business meeting can be valuable, but there are often times when someone might not be paying a lot of attention. This could include one person who is really not into what is being said. That person might start to look disoriented or not amused by something. The best managers are high EQ people who know when certain people in the workplace are not paying attention or are not interested. Those managers will know that they need to talk with other people in the workplace and see what it is that they want. Meanwhile, high EQ employees will know that to show a sense of interest in a meeting, they have to avoid signs of disengagement. They know that to show that they are valuable workers, they will have to express clear signs of interest in anything that is happening at a given time. Knowing how to express such feelings and attitudes is vital for going far and doing more in the workplace. The signs of a lack of engagement include the following. The person is not sitting upright in one's chair. The head appears downcast. Although this could be a sign of being tired, it is more often a sign of someone just waiting for an event to be over. That person is also gazing at something else in the room. Physical stimuli include fussing with something or toying with a pen or other item. That person is trying to keep him or herself busy while waiting for the meeting to be over. Something could be done to try and occupy the time. This includes doodling or drawing on a notepad. Perhaps a person is writing something, but it might not actually be noted from the meeting, but rather just random stuff one would write down for the fun of it. In most cases, the lack of engagement is a result of a person not having much interest in a speech. It is up to the speaker to figure out why this person is not interested so they can get in touch with the person and try to find a way to get that person to pay attention and appreciate whatever is being said. How does someone engage that person? The person who is not interested in something should be consulted after noticing that the person is not engaged. When expressing one's emotional intelligence, it is important not to be judgmental. Rather, the need is to ask someone why he or she is not paying attention nor has no real interest in whatever is being said at the time. Several things can be done to engage a person and to see if that someone is ready to communicate. 1. Ask a question of that person. Ask if that someone is interested in something. If that person isn't intrigued, see about creating a link between something that person likes and whatever the topic at hand might be. 2. Gauge a person's interest by asking about what that someone wants to get out of a task. Talk about something like what might make a project or event interesting to someone. 3. Ask a person to contribute one's own ideas. Allowing that person to add some value or thought to the process can make a discussion more interesting to everyone involved. The general goal is for everyone in a situation to feel comfortable and confident with what is happening. The most important thing is that part of EQ entails more than just showing a sense of empathy. This also includes allowing a person to feel more confident and to be a little more open to ideas. Frustration. There are times when a person is frustrated or worried about things that are happening in one's life. The frustration can be a challenge, but it is important to notice what might be happening to one's body. The physical signs of frustration include the following. A person is sweaty or feeling hot. This could happen because they have too many things on their mind. Someone might be quiet or reserved. This is a sign that a person is worried about things and is too busy being fixated on them. A person would look downward while pacing or standing still. The person is trying to come up with a mental strategy for resolving the issues they have. Frustration is a concern that is not always going to have people being physically active or agitated. It often involves how a person is worried about life and would rather be somewhere else trying to resolve the situation. No one should be worried about cases where people might engage in certain physical actions. Each action is natural and will come about at random. When working with particular physical stimuli, it will be critical for people to understand how their attitudes are changing and what is causing them to think in certain ways. Copying body language. A unique phenomenon people often come across in conversations involves cases where people are copying one another's body language. For instance, a man might uncross his arms during a conversation. The other person listening to him will do the same shortly after. When a second person copies a first person's body language, it is a sign that two people are on the same page with one another. They are starting to develop a bond with each other. The second person might notice that the first is no longer being defensive as the arms are no longer crossed. Therefore, the second will do the same thing and stop being defensive. The two people are now in a situation where they can trust each other and pay attention to what one another has to say. As two people copy each other's body language, they show that they have a mutual sense of admiration and respect for one another. They are not going to be defensive with each other. Copying body language works well in business discussions. When two people are doing the same thing, they are showing that they can negotiate with each other and come up with good ideas and compromises. There is also a dark side to this part of body language. Although copying body language is a sign of comfort and positivity in a situation, it is also could be a sign of a person mocking the other. For instance, one person who is frustrated or upset might copy certain movements in a fast or halted stance. This could be to mock or insult the other person. The key is to look at how natural the changes in body language happen. When the changes move smoothly and naturally, the person in the conversation will notice that there is nothing to be worried or concerned about. The people on all sides of the situation will feel relaxed about the conversation in question. The most important part is that the copying should be done unconsciously. In most cases, the changes in one's body language in response to others comes not out of purpose, but rather because of the unconscious brain having some changes in its attitude. Those who copy other people's body language while doing so in a peaceful and natural manner are the ones that will be easy to work with. Reading body language by haptics. The way a person's face or other features move and change are important to understanding when developing one's emotional intelligence. It is also vital for a person to analyze the body language by looking at the gestures someone is making. Those gestures can range from simple hand movements to more intense movements. One particular form of body language that deserves to be analyzed entails haptics. This is a practice that involves how people communicate with each other by touch. A person with a high EQ will understand what people are feeling based on the physical contact they make. This could be anything from a pat on the back in the workplace to random acts of intimacy in the bedroom. People often associate haptics with sexual actions or anything related to romance. This is understandable because people are closer to one another if they are in a strong relationship with each other. It is important to understand why people engage in haptics. High EQ people recognize the meaning of certain touches. People should be aware of what they are doing when using certain motions to interact with people in ways that are appropriate for the situation. Social touching. Social touching is a basic form of touching that happens between people every day. Some of the more common forms of social touching include patting someone on the back, shaking hands, giving someone a high five, brushing off someone's clothes when that person sees something on it. These forms of social touching are people interacting with each other gently. It is through social touching that people show that they care while also expressing the feelings they have without accosting each other. It's fascinating to see what makes social touching work. The key point for managing social touching is to only do it when needed. A high EQ person will recognize that touching works best when trying to offer a compliment or a sense of gratitude or care for a person. When touching is done for other intentions, it produces a lack of trust and a fear of what might happen. Intimate touching. Some haptics are intimate touching and relates to how close people are to one another. The haptics that a person has in this case can include hugging and kissing, touching personal parts of the body, sexual intensity, touching a person's body for longer than just a few seconds. Some of these intimate touchings can be in public, like a simple hug that takes a second or two. Other actions, like a long open-mouth kiss or anything that might be sexual, should be done in a private setting. When high EQ persons are intimate, they are showing that they are close to each other and that they want to be together. Even more importantly, people might think about the deep feelings that others have. A high EQ situation would involve looking into how intense the intimate touching is. If the touching is very strong and takes more than a moment, it suggests that a person has a stronger emotional or sensual relationship to a person and wants to hold on to that link for as long as possible. Haptics is in play when a person notices certain motions and physical interactions. The touching that goes on during a communication between people should be explored and studied based on how well people interact with each other and what they can expect out of a situation. How to really tell if you're lacking in emotional intelligence and what to do about it. You might be wondering why we need this chapter. Surely you'd know if you lack emotional intelligence. Do you really need a checklist to tell you that you could handle your emotions a little better? Well, here is the ironic thing about EQ. If you do lack emotional intelligence, you'll probably be the last person to realize it. Your significant other will no doubt be aware of it. Your colleagues and underlings will probably complain about it, and any children you have will, unfortunately, copy it. But you, my friend, may well be oblivious. If you're lucky, someone will kindly point it out to you before it is too late. Or you may hear it from a shocking 360 review at work. If you don't realize it in time, you may find yourself missed over for promotion again as a result. Let me tell you a true story. John, not his real name, believed he was at the top of his game at work, achieving results and meeting deadlines. In truth, he did have some impressive skills that encouraged clients to work with him in the first place. And yet, he was continually passed over for promotion at work. He started to believe the company was biased against him, possibly because the boss was scared he would one day take his job. Of course, the truth was very different. As his colleagues and direct reports pointed out in a 360 review that HR instigated across the company, John's way of achieving success wasn't sustainable. He was rude to clients without seeming to realize it. He belittled his team, was often impatient, and lashed out if the work wasn't done to his exact specifications. His team had the highest turnover rate in the company. While he pushed his team to meet deadlines, he struggled to keep either underlings or clients happy. Many of the latter never came back to him. Peers, too, didn't enjoy working with him. For clients, the stress and hassle of delivery wasn't worth the end product, no matter how good it was. Other companies supplied equally or nearly as good products without the stress. For his team members, being shouted and sworn at whenever John's temper flared, granted a brief flame but a strong one, made work deeply unpleasant. John thought nothing of the above and assumed his team knew it was never personal, but just his reaction to stress. A flare-up immediately forgotten with no hard feelings. John was shocked when his 360 report highlighted his unacceptable behavior, both from his peers, his team members, and his boss. Tempted to reject it at first, he talked over his outrage with his wife, a woman, thankfully, of very high emotional intelligence, who knew all too clearly how John struggled with communication at times. She worked hard to tactfully encourage John to see the review as an opportunity. If he could work on the points raised in his review, he could finally earn that well-deserved promotion and they could start the family they've always wanted. During their discussion, John's wife also urged John to realize a very important fact. John's outbursts were the same as his father's before him, whose temper flared every time John did something wrong as a child. While never physical, John still used to hate those moments, and he was mortified that he had unknowingly copied such negative behavior. More than that, he was upset to realize how unhappy he had been making the people around him. John wasn't a stupid man, just naturally low on emotional intelligence. But once he set his mind to it, he worked hard to tackle the issues, identify the triggers to his anger, and to find a more suitable outlet for it. He made a point of showing his appreciation to his team, backed off being so controlling, and worked to turn around the negative attitude. It wasn't a quick fix, but over time, team loyalty increased. Productivity rose, and 18 months after his first 360 review, John earned that promotion. Well done, John. Does any of John's story sound familiar to you? Do you treat people the same way John did? If so, you may struggle with low emotional intelligence, and the chances are that even if you are aware of it, you might not know how to improve it. First things first, let's find out if you have low EQ. Let's look at some signs or clues that show your emotional intelligence could do with some work. A quick note before we begin. As you read through the signs below, be honest with yourself. Do any of them sound like you? Or would other people recognize you in the descriptions? If you're committed to improving your emotional intelligence, the first step is to be open to the fact that you have a problem and not to get defensive about it. That way we can work together to get you where you want to be. 10 signs that you have low emotional intelligence without even realizing. You get stressed easily and perform poorly at work. Everyone can have an off day, but if you lack emotional intelligence, you may have more off days than on and perform consistently poorly at work. As we already know, 90% of top performers at work have high emotional intelligence. People with lower EQs can still perform well, but it's more unlikely. Take John's story above. He believed he was doing well at work, but he couldn't hold on to customers or workers for very long. He also got stressed very easily, a common sign of low emotional intelligence. Denying your feelings only helps them to build and escalate into tension, anxiety, and stress. Someone with better emotional intelligence would be able to spot tough situations earlier and head stress off at the pass. But if you lack EQ, you are twice as likely to experience anxiety and depression, as well as turn to substance abuse and even think about suicide. As we already know, chronic stress can also play havoc on your health. So answer honestly, how well do you manage your stress? What techniques and de-stresses do you use? If you don't have any or rely on unhealthy crutches such as alcohol, you need to carry on reading this book for the help you need. You are quick to criticize and blame others. Being critical of others is never a constructive way forward. Whether you do it to their faces or behind their backs is gossip. Finding fault is as far removed from empathy and emotional intelligence as you can get. Yes, constructive criticism is sometimes needed, but should be done privately and genuinely to improve someone's performance. Likewise, if you blame all of your relationship woes on someone else, for instance your partner, rather than taking your shame of the blame, it's likely that you're not very clued into your emotional intelligence. Everything is not always someone else's fault, and your attitude could be the essence of the problem. Think of it this way: your emotions are your own. They come from within. No one else can make you feel anything you don't want to. If you decide a negative 360 review, for instance, is an opportunity for change, it becomes a positive thing and loses its power over you. It is no longer something to be upset about, and you no longer have any reason to be angry at the people for pointing out your flaws, which have now become opportunities for improvement. Likewise, choosing to hold a grudge is just that, a choice. A negative one too, may I add. Holding a grudge is a stress response, and even thinking about the reason for the grudge sends your body into fight or flight mode. That can be useful when faced with imminent danger, but when reacting to an old perceived threat, it plays havoc with your body. Holding on to stress contributes to heart disease and high blood pressure. Blaming other people instead of taking responsibility for your emotions will only hold you back. Blaming your misfortune on others only stops you from seeking solutions yourself. You fail to control anger. Consider your actions today and be honest with yourself. How many times did you lose your temper today? If your temper flares often, it is a sign that you don't know how to manage your emotions. It doesn't have to be a big flare-up, but consider how often other people's words irritate you. Do you feel offended if someone disagrees with you, no matter how politely? Do you dislike it if someone offers help when you haven't asked for it? When was the last time you uttered the words, "I'm surrounded by idiots"? Or perhaps you tend to go the other way and never show your anger. That can be equally as bad. Suppressing your emotions never ends well. Sometimes it's important to show others that you're sad or upset or frustrated. Masking your emotions or alternatively allowing them to run rampant means you aren't dealing with them, and too much anger can have serious health effects later down the line. You have difficulty asserting yourself. If you have high EQ, you will be able to walk the fine line between asserting yourself and respecting boundaries, and doing so with good manners and empathy. It is a tactful combination, perfect for preventing or handling conflict. You will remain balanced in the face of potentially toxic people, helping to neutralize difficult situations. On the contrary, people with low emotional intelligence struggle to assert themselves effectively because they resort to passive or aggressive behavior when tested. Their belligerent reaction will overshine any attempt to be assertive. Your trouble asserting yourself may also interfere with any attempt to work in or lead a team. Part of leadership, whether you are officially in charge or just a member of the team, is to communicate and persuade other people towards your purpose. That takes tact and the ability to manage your emotions. Otherwise, you risk riding roughshod over partners, friends, colleagues, and subordinates, abusing power, and suffering from emotional outbursts. Trust me, you won't make friends and influence people that way. You don't consider other people's feelings. Empathy is a particularly difficult emotion to master if you struggle with low emotional intelligence. If you are a manager, consider how you lead others. Are you approachable? Do people come to you with their concerns? Do you welcome feedback? If you answered yes, that's great, but let's just sanity check it for a second. You believe you're sensitive to others and your door is always open. But when was the last time anyone took advantage of it? Can't remember? Chances are you're not quite as amenable as you think. The same probably also applies to your home life too. Of course, being mindful of other people doesn't mean that you give in to each request that you receive. If you're a boss or supervisor, the buck may still lie with you, and you have a right to make the decision. A boss sensitive to EQ, however, will ensure his direct reports understand why the decision was made and help them to appreciate the situation so that they can get behind it. You refuse to leave your comfort zone. Getting out of your comfort zone can be difficult for a variety of reasons, but people with low emotional intelligence are particularly loath to do anything new. They prefer their routines and patterns and don't like to be challenged by the unfamiliar, partly because it's difficult for them to process any new emotions that they may feel. Part of those established routines, unfortunately, may be a penchant towards negativity. We all look on the negative side sometimes, but people with low EQ do it more often and to their detriment. They cannot recognize their own emotions or comprehend that they are the cause of their current predicament, and thus fail to recognize that their thinking is clouded by their own bad mood or negativity. Without recognizing this, they're unable to change it, and negativity wins the day. People with low emotional intelligence, therefore, are more likely to give in to stress and anxiety and convince themselves that there is no hope. You give up easily. People may have told you that you give up too easily in the past or complain that you don't like adversity. That's certainly true of people with low emotional intelligence. People with low EQ would rather give up when faced with hardship so they don't have to face whatever issues crop up as a result. Simply put, people with low emotional intelligence tend to be short-sighted. They hope that by ignoring the issues or delaying having to face them, they will simply go away. In contrast, those with high EQ know that's rarely true, and overcoming them is healthier and better in the long run. You feel misunderstood and bitter. When you lack emotional intelligence, you may feel misunderstood by many because you aren't able to deliver your message in a way that other people can easily understand. It's easy to feel aggrieved when you don't get the reaction you want, especially when you don't understand how you come across to others. People with low EQ struggle to understand the reaction to their words, whereas those with higher EQ recognize that they occasionally need to adjust their approach and recommunicate. When you feel misunderstood, it's easy to become bitter, but let me tell you something that will hopefully stop you in your stead. If you're bitter about your failures, you are likely to be bitter about other people's successes too. Why did they succeed where you failed? It's just not fair. Does that sound like the sort of person you want to be? The type of person you want your child to learn from? I hope you answered no to both of those questions. Being bitter about yourself and others is not a nice place to be, and chances are the bitterness you feel at your failures is out of proportion to the success or progress you are already making. You see, people with low emotional intelligence tend to focus on the negative, as I've already said, which means that you're much more likely to concentrate all your attention on the failures or things you haven't yet achieved than on everything that you have. Frustrations are magnified and you forget to be grateful for the things you do have or should be celebrating. Don't forget the famous saying from the man described as America's greatest inventor, Thomas Edison. I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. His never give up attitude brought us the light bulb, worldwide power, the phonograph, and more than 1,000 other patents. many for items still in use in some format today. Imagine if he suffered from low EQ and gave up at the first hurdle. How much worse off would the world be today? You never want to appear wrong. Do you like to argue even if there's no point? Perhaps it would be best to agree to disagree, but you just can't let it go. That's typical of someone with low emotional intelligence. You just can't get over your ego. You never want to appear wrong, even though everyone is at some point. You'd even allow the situation to become awkward by refusing to play fair just because you must win. If you make assumptions quickly and refuse to back down when challenged, even politely, chances are you need to work on your emotional intelligence. This is particularly dangerous in a management situation, as ill-thought-out ideas can end up team strategy. You don't recognize your triggers. Everyone has triggers, situations, or people who get under their skin and cause them to act rashly and without thought. If you're strong in emotional intelligence, you learn how to recognize and sidestep your triggers, avoiding the car crash results. If you're low in EQ, however, you may not even be aware of them, and the results will be the same each time. As part of this, you may be easily offended. It's hard for truly emotionally intelligent people to be so easily offended. They're confident in themselves and open-minded, meaning they usually have thicker skin. As such, they don't allow people to pierce that confidence. You, however, may take offense at the slightest thing, unaware that you're being triggered. Likewise, if you don't recognize the triggers, events, people, or subjects that cause you to lose your temper time and time again, you won't be able to prevent it. And as I said above, being angry all the time is not a nice way to live. If you see yourself in any of the above, don't despair. As I've said time and time again in this book, emotional intelligence can be improved. You can learn how to handle your emotions and how to appreciate and recognize them in others. Read on for part 2 of this book and the help you need. We covered the theory. Now we're going to talk about the practical. You'll find part 2 chock full of hints, tips, and practical advice on how to tackle your low EQ and work your way to becoming a better husband, wife, parent, friend, manager, leader, colleague, and all-around better person. You'll learn how to train your brain by repeating and practicing new emotionally intelligent behavior, creating the new pathways you need to turn your actions into habits. Before long, you'll begin to act with high EQ without even thinking about it, and your old destructive behavior will be far behind you. Here are a few power-packed tips for increasing your assertiveness. One of the best ways to develop assertiveness, works like a charm for me, is to practice being assertive in front of a mirror, where you can clearly see your body language and expressions. Have a pretend conversation with a friend or partner who's insisting you do a thing that you actually want to refuse. How best can you communicate this in an open, non-offensive, and honest way? Focus on everything from your choice of words to expressions to voice tone to body language. After practicing this for a few times, you'll learn to put across your point in a more balanced and non-offensive manner. Be calm, composed, and balanced. Even in a seemingly volatile and tense situation, keep calm. Maintain consistent eye contact with the other person and keep your posture relaxed. Speak in a steady and uniform tone. Assertive folks are rarely controlled by their emotions. They have a solid grip over themselves and keep their composure in the tensest situations. Go with more I statements where you accept your feelings and emotions. For example, instead of saying, "We shouldn't consider going to that place after all," try saying, "I think we should stay away from that place." It doesn't make you come across as pushy or dictatorial. You are merely conveying your ideas to the other person while still keeping it open for them to share their views and ideas. Issuing summons doesn't reveal much respect for other people. For example, if you've been up all night caring for the baby and upset with your partner for not pitching in, you can say something such as, I feel upset that I woke up several times last night and really need you to pitch in every now and then. See people as someone you need to work with, not work against. This is especially true in a professional setting. Get out of the thought process that someone has to lose for you to win. Collaboration and cooperation are the keywords, not competition. View every potential challenging situation as an opportunity to work with people. You are on the same team versus against people. You are part of the opposing team. This alone will give you the ability to build and channelize more harmonious relationships. Avoid viewing others as enemies. Instead, see them as allies and work towards arriving at a win-win situation. Avoid feeling guilty about standing up for yourself. I know it is easier said than done, but there's no harm in refusing people or taking a stand when something doesn't fit with your values, priorities, ideals, or preferences. All the same, listen to others without inducing feelings of guilt in them for openly conveying their needs. At times, we unfittingly permeate guilty feelings in our minds with damaging feelings and worries. Learn to replace these negative feelings with more positive self-talk. For example, I am not a good person because I didn't loan money to my coworker. This can be replaced with, I deserve to be financially stable and not jeopardize my financial security. Another good way of losing feelings of guilt and discomfort is placing yourself in the shoes of a loved one. Would you hesitate to speak for a loved one? Imagine taking a stand for a loved one. It's easier for us to speak for someone we care about than ourselves. Get into the habit of expressing your feelings, needs, opinions, and preferences openly. Avoid assuming that people will just know what you want or need. This is one of the major causes of conflict in relationships. We automatically assume people will understand our feelings and preferences. Be specific, honest, open, clear, and respectful while conveying your needs. Let us assume you want to order food at a restaurant. Would you rather order a sandwich, or would you prefer asking for ham on rye with thick slice of cheddar, cucumber, and tomatoes? Why then are we afraid to articulate our true needs in personal and professional relationships? Be open, genuine, and respectful in your communications. When you actively plug into other person's verbal and nonverbal communication patterns, there is greater understanding. Learn to listen to and respect differences. Realize that merely disagreeing with someone doesn't mean they're wrong, negative, or bad. Master the healthy art of agreeing to disagree. Empathize with and understand people even if you don't necessarily agree with them. Attempt to decipher where they are coming from and what drives their thoughts, views, and actions. Learn verbal and nonverbal signals of assertiveness. Some verbal clues that convey assertiveness are firm yet put forward in a relaxed voice, fluent as well as a sincere tone, appropriate voice volume according to the situation, cooperative or accompanied by constructive words. The idea is to communicate respectively with genuineness and firmness. Some nonverbal features of assertiveness include active and open listening, eye contact, and open body language, and smiling. Don't focus on winning arguments. You will almost never get people to think or behave your way if you start off by announcing, "I'm going to prove this to you." This strategy is brilliantly explained by Dale Carnegie in his bestseller, How to Win Friends and Influence People. In effect, you are challenging people and increasing their defenses by announcing you are hell-bent on proving a point. Do not arouse opposition in people. The listener will prepare for a battle with you. Even in the most positive conditions, changing people's minds is a huge challenge. Don't let anyone know you are trying to prove something. Instead, do it subtly and cleverly. Let's say someone makes a statement or offers a view you believe is wrong. Now, even when you think he or she is wrong, play along by saying something like, "Well, I thought the other way, but I could be wrong. I often am. Moreover, if I really am wrong, I want to be right. Let's get down to examining facts." Be more scientific and balanced in your approach to instantly drop the other person's defenses. No one on earth or heaven can ever object to a statement such as, "Well, I may be wrong. Let's consider the facts." Does a scientist try to prove things? They only attempt to unearth facts. This is precisely how you should be approaching arguments to develop greater emotional social intelligence. Be more scientific while approaching potentially volatile arguments. You'll get into trouble by admitting you could be wrong. It will halt a seemingly uncomfortable situation in its tracks and encourage the other person to adopt a fairer, balanced, and open-minded stance too. It will inspire him or her to admit they could be wrong as much as you. If you know a person is wrong and you state it bluntly and accusingly, they'll just be as likely to prove you wrong. The way it works is when people are not faced with resistance or strong emotions, they are far more likely to change their mind. However, when they are told they are wrong, they tend to resent it and work harder on proving themselves right. This leading to a never-ending loop of arguments and counter-arguments. When our self-esteem is threatened, we automatically harden our stance, make people put down their guard by admitting that you could be wrong. Address people with their name and appreciate them publicly. The thing you heard about praising people publicly and criticizing them privately is true. Effective leaders and emotionally intelligent people realize the importance of addressing people by their names while also using encouraging statements. Make people feel important by playing up their strengths, achievements, and skills in front of other people. This motivates them to do great work, even when people are not performing on par with their ability. Refer to their achievements publicly to make them aware of their real potential. People respond positively to appreciation and praise. Channelize their positivity or positive emotions by tapping into their positive. Managing other people's emotions for building fulfilling social relationships. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. Use the adopt and adapt strategy. We often find ourselves making an effort to resist mirroring another person's emotions. That is not how we humans are wired. The human race, since evolutionary times, is known for empathy. We are preconditioned or wired to mirror the emotions of people around us. We feel other people's emotions. However, sometimes instead of mirroring the other person's feelings, we take the supposed high road and resist this feeling of extending empathy or feeling another person's emotions. Let us consider an example. Your partner is angry with you and screaming at the top of their voice. You obviously know he or she is angry. Now you've been trained to believe that pacifying the situation, not giving a reaction, is integral to the process of resolving the issue. Instead of shouting back or saying anything, you opt to stay calm. Then you proceed to calm your partner. At this point, things get out of hand. Your raging partner gets the feeling you simply don't understand and care enough to react to their emotions. There is a feeling of not understanding what I am trying to convey, or you never understand me. According to you, you were attempting to pacify the situation. When then did it backfire? This is the case when, at times, instead of adapting to someone's emotions, we take the mighty road to fight replicating their emotions and feelings. Place yourself in your partner's shoes and adopt their emotions or feelings. This allows you to gain better insight about the state of their mind. It will also help the other person relax in the knowledge that you are able to comprehend where they are coming from. Thus, the situation becomes more harmonious and less acrimonious. Don't distance or switch yourself off from the other person's emotions in a bid to thaw the situation. You could end up making it worse. Develop active listening skills. One of the most effective ways to deal with other people's emotions is to develop active listening skills. Listening skills are the cornerstone of empathy. To empathize with a person, you must truly tune into their verbal and nonverbal signals. You are more likely to understand a person's feelings and emotions when you keenly listen to them. Show genuine interest in what a person is saying by giving them full attention. Don't appear distracted or preoccupied when a person is speaking to you. Be mindful to understand them more effectively. Listen to people without judging them. Be sensitive and considerate towards what they are saying. Don't let your prejudices, bias, and preconceived notions filter what the other person is saying. In addition, wandering thoughts are a big no-no while listening to a person. The best way to let a person know that you've been listening to a person is to ask questions to check your understanding. Say something like, "If I understand correctly, you are upset about the fact that your manager chided you publicly." Offer affirmations for what they are saying via verbal and nonverbal gestures. Paraphrase and summarize what the person just said to let them know you've been listening to them. Listen to people to understand, not fix their problems. Plenty of listeners, with notable intentions of course, misunderstand the speaker's intention of sharing his or her problems and challenges with them. We mistakenly believe that just because someone is talking to us about an issue, he or she is looking for a solution for it. People don't always need you to fix their issues. Sometimes all they need is a listening ear. In his best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gray mentioned how one of the biggest differences in perspective and conflict issues between men and women is men listen to offer solutions, while women simply want someone to listen to them without offering solutions or opinions. All they need is someone to lend them a listening ear and to understand their feelings. Sometimes all you need is someone to listen to you without offering quick fixes. Give statements that make people feel like you are actively listening to them and acknowledging their feelings. Offer both verbal and nonverbal acknowledgments of their feelings, saying something such as, "Yes, I understand how you feel," or "The manner in which you've handled the situation is truly commendable." Keep a broad, open mind. Refrain from listening with a prejudiced, biased, or preconditioned mind. Resist the urge to label, categorize, or criticize people. Don't jump to sweeping conclusions. Plenty of listeners discourage people from speaking, owning to their tendency to hijack the conversation. Don't try to finish people's sentences for them. Keep in mind the individual is communicating his or her thoughts, opinions, feelings, and ideas. Allow them to express themselves in an unrestrained and uninterrupted manner. Such statements assure the speaker that you understand them or empathize with them. You are placing yourself in the other person's shoes without offering solutions, opinions, or judgment. From now on, pay careful attention to how you interact with people. At the end of every interaction, ask yourself the following questions. 1. Did I actively listen to the person? 2. Was I too distracted or preoccupied to listen to him or her mindfully? 3. Did I change or adapt my body language to match the needs of the person I was interacting with? Was my body language open, receptive, flexible, and encouraging? Did I paraphrase or pose queries about what the speaker said to let them know I am listening to them or to confirm my understanding of the situation? Answering these queries will offer you a fair idea about whether you were successful in practicing active listening or connected with them at a deeper level. How do you get an individual to speak so they listen or talk more about their emotions? A quick tip is to pose more open-ended questions in place of yes-no queries. You are opening the door for people to walk in and share their emotions. Ask more open-ended questions to keep the conversation flowing and get people to talk. This gives you the chance to listen to them and actively tune in on their innermost feelings and emotions. Instead of, "Are you upset?" a yes-no question, try asking, "Why do you appear upset?" Pose questions that encourage people to talk or have a more fleshed out conversation. Use reflecting statements. They communicate to the other person you are honestly trying to understand their emotions, thoughts, and actions. They also thaw a potentially difficult scenario since you are reducing the other person's emotional reaction. It sounds more non-accusatory and doesn't build up the other person's defenses. For example, if you notice someone is upset, you can say something like, "It's obvious you are upset with something. I overheard you say," whatever they said. Or, "I observed since the last few days you have not spoken much at the weekly meetings." Actions. Is there something that has hurt or upset you? You are giving the other person an opportunity to open up about their feelings. Make a reflective statement and quickly add a question to the end of it. For example, I observe you've been brooding for a while. What's up? When you observe certain emotions or behavior patterns, delve deeper into it by posing gentle queries. Sometimes, gently probing to unveil deeper, hidden feelings behind a person's behavior can give us some amazing insights or clarity about their emotions and behavior. When a person offers an intensely emotion reaction in any situation, the best way to get them to be more logical is to throw a few questions. This is helpful when it comes to directing the focus from their emotional center to the logical function center of the brain. Pose intelligent questions that lower the intensity of their emotions. Ask logical questions for facilitating balanced and logical thinking. Listening isn't simply restricted to tuning into the speaker's verbal communication. It is also about tuning into what they leave unsaid through their voice, body language, expressions, and more. Let's look at an example to understand how important it is to listen to people's verbal and nonverbal signals to understand and manage their emotions. It is a late Friday evening, and after a particularly busy, stressful week, everyone is set to go home and relax over the weekend. The employees are enthusiastically turning off their workstations and on the verge of moving out. This is when the company's CEO, Jill, enters and tells them to be seated for an important update. She informs them that the deadline for a crucial project that the company has been working very hard on for the past few weeks has been pushed ahead by a month. There are barely any days left now for the final deadline. There's a collective sigh as everyone is stressed, tensed, and disappointed. The project head sits contemplatively at her desk trying to cope with the sudden change in deadline. Then the project manager, Jim, walks and says, "We'll ensure that everyone does a good job and turns in the project in accordance with the revised deadline." Yet another employee, Sam, gets to work on her workstation, while few employees simply leave. A majority of the project team members mention they all will be capable of handling the new developments. The CEO leaves the office content that things are in control and that everyone responded more positively than she had imagined. What Jill missed was the mismatch between the workers' words and body language. She missed the inconsistency of the words and nonverbal signals of the project head who stomped from the office after responding to an email from a recruiter. Other members of the team went to get coffee and were virtually in tears owing to the increased pressure and stress. Their idea of a relaxed weekend was nixed. No one said these things to Jill when she broke the news and invited feedback. Obviously, no one wanted to tell her how they were truly feeling about the pushed-ahead deadline. In the event that they didn't express their true feelings, how was Jill supposed to know how they were really feeling? Do you hold her responsible for not tuning into her employees' emotions? Obviously, yes. She didn't listen to what they were attempting to communicate. Jill simply went with verbal communication without catching what is left unsaid. A major component of emotional intelligence is tuning in to what people don't say. A majority of our listening time is spent on planning our responses to what the speaker says rather than active listening to him or her. The focus is on responding rather than understanding. Avoid listening to respond. Instead, listen keenly to understand the speaker's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Rather than mentally rehearsing responses, attempt to tune into the speaker's verbal and nonverbal clues. Avoid interrupting the speaker's flow of thoughts by clearing doubts or throwing in queries. Hold on until the speaker pauses. Let me go back to what you said. I didn't get what you meant by ABC, whatever you didn't understand. At times, our queries throw speakers in a different direction from what they were trying to convey initially. When the speaker veers in another direction, get them back to the topic with something such as, "It's wonderful to know more about XYZ. Now, what were you saying about ABC a few seconds ago?" Practice greater empathy. Empathy is the art of putting yourself in another person's shoes to experience their feelings and emotions as if you were undergoing it. You attempt to experience their feelings and emotions as they do. Even though you aren't actually experiencing them, you try to understand it from a first-person perspective as if it was happening to you. The knack of understanding and experiencing others' emotions and making the most of these experiences for reaching out to people to help them feel more positively about a situation is much needed in today's relationship-driven world. Empathy is the foundation stone of emotional intelligence and social skills. When you develop the ability to empathize with others, you can manage their feelings and emotions more effectively. The ability to understand how a person is feeling can motivate, lead, encourage, and inspire people in a constructive and positive manner. Here are some secrets for building greater empathy. Traveling and increasing your exposure to different cultures and people is a good way to start working on your empathy factor. Go on journeys to different places to understand people's beliefs, aspirations, and lifestyles. When you are exposed to a life that is dramatically different than your own, you'll develop more understanding, awareness, and appreciation of people. There is a tendency to acquire a better and more evolved understanding of people's thoughts, actions, and emotions. Expose yourself to as many points of view, cultures, and ways of life to develop more appreciation for differences among people. Examine both your overt and veiled biases. A majority of us have deeply ingrained biases and prejudices about gender, profession, nationality, age, race, education, and much more. These biases are the biggest hurdles where empathy is concerned. It prevents us from listening to and understanding where a person stands, thus inhibiting our ability to empathize with them. Make a detailed list of your biases. Try to find evidence or opinions that challenge your prejudices or biases. Operate with a more open mind and broader view of the world around you. Build and develop a natural, positive, and productive curiosity. There is plenty to learn from a seemingly inexperienced junior or a tyrant boss or a demanding client. Instead of tagging or labeling people, build curiosity about what you can learn from people. When you look for learning, even in the most challenging interactions, you'll view these people in a more balanced and positive manner, thus increasing your appreciation of others even when you don't necessarily agree with them. Try predicting how an individual will behave in a particular situation by putting yourself in their shoes. This will increase your perceptions and insights of people's feelings. Be present while listening to the other person. Put off email notifications and other alerts while mindfully tuning in to what the other person is saying. According to studies by Professor Emeritus of UCLA, what we say contributes to only 7% of the entire message, while the other 93% is impacted by nonverbal communication patterns such as body language and time of our voice. If you are not focusing on what the other person is saying, you are missing vital clues while interacting with them. Volunteer for a cause at an NGO or charity organization. Devote your free time to volunteering at a charity or cause of your choice. It doesn't just help you appreciate your blessings, but also builds greater empathy for those who aren't as privileged as you are. The idea that you positively influence someone's life will make you feel wonderful about yourself. By spending more time with those who aren't as fortunate as you are, you build the ability to understand other people, their challenges and aspirations, which eventually boost your empathy. In situations of conflicts and differences, arriving at a mutually beneficial resolution becomes easier if you understand the other person's fears, key motivators, aspirations, needs, and desires. Even if the other person comes on too strongly or negatively, you'll understand him or her. Watch election time debated to understand and appreciate varied viewpoints. Understand why someone feels the way they do and how they support or express their arguments. Each time you find yourself agreeing with a point of view, look for evidence to support the contrary view. This practice will build your capacity to appreciate different viewpoint without sticking to your stand dogmatically. At its center, empathy is creating a pathway for greater understanding of where the other person is coming from by placing yourself in their shoes, even if you do not agree with their views. Pay specific compliments to people. This will boost your social and empathy factor. Learn to be more specific and detailed while appreciating people rather than making it sound like plain flattery. For instance, instead of saying, "You did a wonderful job," say, "The assignment contained detailed research and very well articulated ideas despite having a complicated topic." Or, "Would you like to mention the objection handling strategy behind your tremendous sales growth?" You are being specific about something while appreciating and complimenting a person to boost your social emotional intelligence. Be assertive, not aggressive. A big component of social emotional intelligence is the ability to exert more assertiveness. The idea is to develop greater assertiveness, not aggression. Assertive folks are those who know how to stand up for themselves and not please everyone all the time without offending people. Assertiveness is a real, reasonable, and balanced statement of emotions and opinions. For example, "I'd prefer to go to a casual cafe instead of a fine dine," is an assertive statement. It doesn't tell the other person that he or she has to do something. You are simply articulating your preference in a balanced manner while still leaving scope for the other person to give their opinion or take on it. Assertiveness is making our needs clear without resorting to aggression or dominance. While aggressiveness is characterized by a lack of consideration or respect for the other person's needs and rights, assertiveness is politely and respectfully putting across your needs. Aggressive folks view things from a more me win, you lose perspective, while assertive people look at it from a win-win point of view. Aggressiveness is about meeting a self-fulfilling objective, where assertiveness is finding a middle way. The aggressive statement for the above assertive sample would be, "We are going to a casual cafe instead of a fine dine." In the latter version, you are pronouncing a judgment without respect or consideration for the other's preferences. Assertiveness is laced with understanding, concern, and respect for yours as well as the other person's feelings, preferences, and opinion. You may not agree with them, but you still respect their right to their opinion and preference. While aggressive states, "My way alone is the right way," assertive states, "Though your views don't match mine, I respect your right to differ. We can agree to disagree." Assertive people do not allow other people to walk over them and realize where to draw the line without being offensive or hurtful. They know how to refuse without coming across as harsh. When you show respect for an individual or group, the hurt subsides. You clear your stand while keeping the respect and concern intact. However, when you demonstrate a lack of respect or consideration for another person's emotions, desires, and views, you are bordering on aggression. Assertiveness is standing up for your values and not being shy of expressing your needs, desires, and goals to others. Assertiveness is treating others equally and emphasizing on mutual respect. You have no intention to offend or hurt others, just as you don't intend to hurt yourself. As an assertive person, you are forever looking for a win-win solution. Aggressive people have an inherent and desperate desire to win by neglecting other people's needs. They view hurting, offending, or disrespecting others as some of the things that might come with winning or becoming successful. The focus is on being right rather than resolving a problem effectively. Aggressive folks feed on other people's fears to fulfill their objectives. Increase your assertiveness quotient if you want to increase your emotional intelligence and social relationships. If you are a leader, you have to develop the knack of being assertive while demonstrating respect, consideration, and empathy towards followers and team members. Even if you disagree with people, attempt to understand what makes them think the way they do. This increases your social emotional intelligence multifold. The threat of multitasking on EQ and how to stop it. Multitasking is often a challenge for people to think about what they are doing. A person might forget there are different rules and standards associated with each task. For instance, Jeff works for an advertising firm. He has many tasks involved creating advertising campaigns for multiple groups. Each of these businesses has its own standards for what needs to be done in their advertisements. Jeff might try to work on each of these tasks at the same time. He will do this with the belief that by handling as many things as possible at once, he will be more productive. More importantly, he feels he will satisfy all of his clients. Multitasking might not always be easy for Jeff. Maybe he has multiple deadlines to work with each of his clients. It will become easy for him to lose track of those deadlines, thus causing him to fail to do things right and on time. Each of the clients Jeff is working for might have their own rules for what they want to be done. One company has the need to convey a message in a certain tone. Another wants a livelier approach with a more personal touch. By working on too many tasks at once, Jeff can mix up what he is doing and give the wrong results to the wrong client. This, in turn, results in serious problems where he has to correct everything he is doing and waste time, thus making it harder for him to keep his work intact. Worst of all, Jeff might end up losing some of his clients because he clearly did not keep each client separate from each other. Jeff did not recognize how risky multitasking is, thus not helping his clients like he wanted to. So what does multitasking have to do with emotional intelligence? It occurs when people are afraid of falling behind in their work. Several things can be considered when it comes to multitasking and emotional intelligence. How multitasking hurts the EQ. There are many good reasons why multitasking can be dangerous for one's EQ. 1. A person will not be self-aware of one's work when multitasking. A person's EQ can be harmed while multitasking because they are too busy thinking about lots of things that have to be done at the same time. When a person is not self-aware, they start to focus too much on work and various random tasks. This becomes harder for people to handle at times because they aren't seeing the big picture. 2. Multitasking keeps people from being able to learn. Those who have a high EQ are capable of learning things better than others because they have all the perspectives they need on a subject. It is easier for people to learn when they focus on just one thing at a time. Those who are busy trying to handle many things or ideas at once are likely to struggle. Learning is all about maintaining a sense of focus. Those who can stay focused on what they want to do and keep on working towards their goals, no matter what happens, are likely to do more. A person who tries to work on too many things at once, they can create problems that they don't know how to solve. 3. Emotions become harder for people to manage when they are multitasking. It is harder for people to stay emotionally in control when they start multitasking. When a person does too many things, it becomes harder for that person's emotions to stay even. A person will not think about some of the issues that might come about when trying to do far too many things at once. The added stress that comes with trying to multitask could be threatening due to all the work that comes with trying to finish things the right way. 4. People can alienate themselves from their coworkers when multitasking. Alienation is a problem that can impact any working environment. This is an issue where a person will distance himself or herself from other people because they are too busy or fixated on things. They will be too preoccupied with whatever is happening in a certain environment and less on the other people. Multitasking makes it more difficult for people to get along with other coworkers. When a person is too busy, they will stop thinking about the others in the environment that might keep them in check. 5. Those who multitask might feel too confident in themselves. They begin to develop unrealistic expectations of what they can do and won't know that they are incorrect until it is too late. Multitaskers will often find themselves in situations that they cannot finish. Initially, they feel they can do many things, but they will become tired after a while. Let's go back to Jeff. He feels he can work on multiple projects and get them all handled throughout the day. Over time, he starts to feel overworked. He becomes fatigued to the point where he has to rest. Eventually, the fatigue causes him to break down, thus struggling to complete some of his tasks. As he is unable to finish his work, he starts to delay things. This leads to people being frustrated with what he is doing. Multitasking is only going to make things hard to handle. All of these problems relating to multitasking are ones that can hurt a person's ability to get work done and to keep it organized. There is a way for people to keep the problems they come into from being harder to manage than necessary. How to avoid multitasking. Multitasking will only do more to hurt anyone's emotional intelligence. That does not mean it has to be a problem that persists. Several things can be done to stop multitasking and grow one's emotional intelligence. 1. Start by dividing tasks based on when they are needed to be completed. The best thing to do is have a schedule for when particular tasks need to be finished. Having a good schedule on hand is vital for keeping life organized while also seeing that one is not going to try and do lots of things at once. 2. Determine a priority for everything that has to happen. Some tasks may be more important than others. One task might have to be finished sooner. Maybe another task has a larger value attached to it, like a project that pays more money or an academic task that influences one's grade. Whatever task is more important at the moment should be the one that is worked on first. This ensures that a person recognizes the value of individual tasks and how certain ones might be more essential to complete than others. 3. Keep to the schedule. The most important thing is for the schedule to be followed as closely as possible. The schedule has to be organized so a person will stay focused on the task at hand and not be distracted by other tasks getting in the way. 4. Make time for breaks. Everyone needs a break. A person cannot work for 10 or 12 hours straight. That would be difficult to do, and those who try to do so will only struggle with fatigue. A person should plan and schedule regular breaks. Multitasking might sound like something valuable and helpful for one's life, but it is not going to work the right way. The best way for a person to build one's EQ is to look at how multitasking can be avoided and how a sense of control can work better. Can multitasking ever be acceptable? Some people argue that multitasking is perfectly okay in many cases. The stereotypical image of the mother taking care of many things while managing her children is a fine example of this. The problem with this is that anyone who is hurried and tries to do many things at once will likely fail. It takes an immense amount of experience and expertise to complete many things at once. Even then, a person might still fail at it. Avoiding multitasking is best for one's life as it ensures that a person will not try to do too many things. The real goal is to stick with a plan for work that isn't too hard and allows for a sense of control. The hidden dangers of emotional intelligence. I've spent the whole of this book enthusing about emotional intelligence and cheerleading its many, many positive qualities. You know by now, for instance, how being EQ savvy can strengthen your relationships, balance your emotions, and help you thrive at work. Marriages are stronger if the partners have high EQs and spouses are happier. Meanwhile, children with high EQ parents are more likely to form suitable peer relationships, have a balanced outlook on life, and reach their academic potential. Emotional intelligence at work helps you be a better team player and an effective leader. To achieve success, earn more money, sell more, and make the workplace a more enjoyable place to be. Emotional intelligence can be a truly beautiful thing when it is used for the right reasons. But there is the rub. Emotional intelligence by its very nature is morally neutral, and I would be remiss in finishing this book without first warning you of its hidden danger: manipulation. You see, emotional intelligence can be used for good or evil, depending on the person utilizing it. Here's a real-life example. If I put Martin Luther King Jr. and Adolf Hitler in the same sentence, much less suggested they had something in common, you might be offended. But the truth is that they did share one skill: emotional intelligence. They both used emotional intelligence to get their message across. One for good, one for evil. The dark side of emotional intelligence. When Martin Luther King Jr. presented his dream, he not only kept his own feelings in check, but he used language that sparked emotions in others, moving them to action. His electrifying message, a perfectly balanced outcry of reason and emotion, of anger and hope, according to his speechwriter Clarence Jones, was a classic example of emotional intelligence used for good. The problem is that once someone is talented at emotional intelligence, it becomes easier to manipulate others, something Adolf Hitler understood too well. Hitler spent years workshopping his gestures, facial expressions, and body language in front of a mirror to become a captivating public speaker and a master manipulator. He recognized the power of emotions and used it horrifically against his subjects. As best-selling author and psychologist Adam Grant writes in The Atlantic, when you're good at controlling your own emotions, you can disguise your true feelings. When you know what others are feeling, you can tug at their heartstrings and motivate them to act against their own best interests. Emotional intelligence and narcissism. Much of the manipulation in such circumstances comes from people with issues already. There is a reason narcissists don't learn from mistakes, and that's because they never get past the first step, which is admitting that they made one. Jeffrey Kluger. Studies examining the influence of high emotional intelligence, for example, have found a disturbing correlation with narcissism, extreme self-centeredness, which often comes at someone else's expense. Highly emotionally intelligent narcissists, for instance, can use their knowledge of emotions to trick you into feeling a certain way or behaving in a particular manner. They manipulate you into doing whatever they want, usually with some endgame for themselves. One study, Is There a Dark Intelligence?, concluded that, quote, the utilization of EI skills for the emotional manipulation of others is facilitated by dark personalities, namely narcissists and psychopaths. To the extent that EI can be and is used for malicious purposes, e.g., deception, exploitation, harm of others, a dark intelligence may be formed by those who use EI as a tool to a self-serving and manipulative end. End quote. Note that narcissism can easily be mistaken by a casual observer for a social disorder such as Asperger's syndrome. The difference is that someone with Asperger's may not understand what you are feeling, whereas a narcissist simply wouldn't care. Their own personal goals are more important. Identifying manipulation. Unfortunately, the workplace offers plenty of opportunity for people with high emotional intelligence to be devious and self-serving. Such behavior could include spreading rumors and gossip, distorting or blocking information, and focusing on strategically important targets, such as supervisors, rivals, and subordinates. Your high EQ coworker may manipulate you by playing on your fear to spur you into action, or by showing you just one side of the story. They may take advantage of your good mood to demand something, or act with reciprocity, asking for something only after they have supposedly done you a good turn, knowing you'll find it harder to say no. Beware, too, people who ask lots of questions and want to get to know you without revealing anything of themselves. They could be looking for weaknesses. Finally, if someone wants to manipulate you, they may speak quickly or use jargon to confuse, force your hand by issuing unreasonable timescales, or give you the silent treatment. Of course, not everyone with high emotional intelligence aims to manipulate or gain the upper hand. Often EQ is simply used to help achieve goals. It does bring home, however, the fact that emotional intelligence isn't necessarily benevolent. A 2010 journal paper, Strategic Use of Emotional Intelligence in Organizational Settings, Exploring the Dark Side, argued that EQ should be divorced from its association with desirable moral qualities. Instead, author Martin Kilduff, a University College London professor, states, quote, we have shown that the strategic disguise of one's own emotions and the manipulation of others' emotions for strategic ends are behaviors evident not only on Shakespeare's stage, but also in the offices and corridors where power and influence are traded, unquote. The best way to tackle such manipulation is to be aware of it, to hone your own emotional intelligence so that you can recognize the emotional landscape and any attempt to take advantage of it. But how do you make sure you don't misuse your new emotional intelligence skills? Is it possible to manipulate without knowing it? Good questions, and yes, it is possible to manipulate without deliberate intent. But as a rule, if your intentions are pure, so will your actions be. If you're in doubt, concentrate on your empathy. Empathetic concern for others should override any self-concern and act as an antidote to the dark side, as does being aware of the moral implications of emotional intelligence, which you now are thanks to this chapter. Being a catalyst for change. Change is hard for everyone. No one likes change because it can be unpredictable. Change is vital in life for allowing anyone to feel better about certain things that are happening and to be able to adapt to whatever might come about in the future. A person with a high emotional intelligence will be more likely than others to help support change. The goal is to not only encourage change, but to also make people in the same environment feel that change is useful and a necessity for everyone. Why do people refuse change? It helps to understand why people aren't willing to change. There are many reasons people want things to stay the same. 1. A person might feel comfortable with one situation. A sense of complacency can settle in after a while. A man who gets up, has toast for breakfast, takes the bus to work, gets back home after a bit of time, has a beer, watches television, and then goes to sleep might be complacent with that routine. He knows that there are things coming about in his life each day that he can expect. It might be difficult to adapt and adjust when something else comes up during that time frame. What if the bus isn't available? What if there's nothing good on television? Practically anything can disrupt that man's lifestyle. Still, people often like to stay with the routines they are in because they know how they can avoid problems. They want to keep on living in those ways so they will not be judged or rushed into situations they do not want to be in. 2. Something might be working already. Another reason for people to resist change is they might feel that change is not necessary. The things that are happening in a workplace or other environment might be just fine. For instance, a retail store location is getting better sales thanks to some of its promotions and new products. That location has higher sales right now than what it had last year or the year before. People often refuse change at this point because they feel that whatever is working well should be left alone. After a while, there could be a chance for change to take place. Maybe a business will stop growing as well as it has been because people are far too used to whatever is available. 3. There's a sense of uncertainty with change. Uncertainty comes when people are afraid of change and don't know what to expect. There is a point that makes it harder for people to take that next step. A business might want to expand and grow to offer more services or locations. At the same time, that business might not be willing to make a change. 4. People have biases over how things are going to work for them. The biases that people hold are sometimes based on false opinions. They focus on the issues that they have in their personal lives. For instance, people might think that certain outside factors that cause change are dangerous. They could assume that those factors are dangerous and are not going to help them in the least. Sometimes those biases will cloud people's vision about the situations they might enter into. Those people will not understand that there is something positive to be had out of the work being produced and how well it can run. This makes knowing how to get bias corrected and fixed all the more important for people to explore. These 4 points prove that people have their own reservations and worries about change. They don't know what would happen when change takes place. Sometimes they may be too content to go forward and make those changes. By using one's emotional intelligence, it becomes easier for change to happen and become easier to manage. How to make change work. Being capable of inducing change in the workplace is not always easy. It takes effort and a strong will to get people to see just how important change can be. Even those who have been fixated on certain routine for a long time will find that it is not difficult to make changes when the right plans and efforts for work are put in place. 1. Be positive about the change. Emotionally intelligent people are not afraid of what might happen. They have reviewed all the situations they are entering into and know that there is always going to be something great coming out of the work one puts in. Catalysts also know that it is not a problem to change things and to make a situation more positive. An emotionally intelligent person must be ready to suggest positivity over anything that might be planned. 2. Be a visionary. Visionary people are those who are not afraid to look forward. This includes looking into what might happen when a change takes place. People could see that by making the right changes, lives will be easier to lead and people will be happier with what they are doing. However, it is through one's visionary work that such changes can be promoted. People should focus on being visionary by highlighting the great things they can do with their lives. Knowing how to get people to feel confident and relaxed about what they are doing in their lives can make a real difference if managed well enough. 3. Express a likable quality. Change catalysts need to show that changes they want to support are the ones that people can get behind. This includes being likable and friendly towards others. A sense of positivity and likability is vital for making any kind of change work well. It is through being upbeat and confident that a person can grow and succeed. More importantly, people will be happy about the changes when they see the positives. An emotionally intelligent person will always think about the benefits that can come with certain actions. It is through that positive attitude that a person can get to do more and be a better person for all to follow and support. 4. Be open to the change. One problem that many have with change is that they don't always seem to be positive or worthwhile. Sometimes those changes might be difficult for people to comprehend. They might see issues in those changes and don't want to follow. But the reason for this might be because they don't understand all the points that come with it. Take a look at an investment opportunity that might be posted online. People are often suspicious of these things. They don't know what makes an investment worthwhile or interesting. When a white paper or other document explaining everything is posted, it becomes easier for people to support something. They will see that investment features many points relating to success. Those who are open to change understand that people have various needs and worries. By handling the right changes over time, it becomes easier for people to grow and stay strong. Those people will do their best when they know there are lots of details for them to follow, that they can make a true difference in their plans and for how they will work. 5. Express a strategic plan. Being a change catalyst requires establishing a good strategy. The strategy can be anything from a plan for expanding to a schedule for how concepts are to be developed. The details that go into the plan must be specific so people can feel better about supporting something being offered. A strategic plan should be explored when trying to make emotional intelligence work. It is through this that people can convey a sense of understanding over the changes that will take place. 6. Acknowledge and review any biases people have. Consider the biases that people hold. Everyone has some kind of bias. Some people have biases that are a little more intense than others. They may feel that there are lots of things that could hurt them and that they need to get away from those issues if they want to succeed. Some people feel that certain procedures will not work all that well. Others think that specific behaviors are not worthwhile and that they might hurt people who try to follow them. There is a need to look at the biases that people have and to see what can be done to resolve those biases. Knowing how to target these biases and stop them from developing any further is a necessity for allowing a business to grow and stay strong. The main point of the process is to help people see what makes changes useful while opening their eyes to seeing how they can benefit. This includes convincing them there is nothing to worry about. Recognizing the emotions people have over change while supporting a plan will help those people stay comfortable with whatever is being promoted. Change is always good for people. It's what helps people feel better about their lives and will help them grow and evolve as strong citizens of society. An emotionally intelligent person will be more likely to convince people that changes they need are right for them. Common questions to ask oneself when gauging one's emotional intelligence. The questions listed in this chapter are self-assessment points that help people understand what they are doing with their lives. Having a sense of understanding and comprehension about one's EQ is a must for having a better and more controlled life in any situation. 1. How well am I able to manage many priorities in life? A person with a high EQ will know how to keep their priorities under control, so they are not complicated or hard to work with. Those who accept too many risks at a time will be confused easily with what they want to do. When a person tries to do too many things at once, that person becomes emotionally unsettled. Those with high EQs will know how to organize their many tasks. They know that multitasking is dangerous and can be a threat to their emotional health. 2. How am I able to manage multiple conflicts? Are there any conflicts I got into in the past, and what did I do to settle those issues? Workplace conflicts can happen for a multitude of reasons, too many to list. Other conflicts may occur outside of the workplace and include relationship issues with a significant other or some relative. Whatever the conflicts might be, one should look at how conflicts were handled in the past. A high EQ person will know what to do to get beyond the problem and to keep them from being a threat or burden in life. Having control over one's emotions makes it easier to overcome any obstacles or hassles that might be a hindrance to a peaceful life. 3. How have I been able to manage challenges in life? When encountering a challenge, one needs to keep emotions managed in order to think rationally and not make rash decisions. People with a high EQ are capable of knowing what they can do to overcome challenges and how they can resolve them before they become too severe. 4. Are there any points in my life that I feel I need to expand upon? What can I do with my life to make it better? People with a high EQ understand what they can do to positively change their lives. It is important for people to look at how well their emotional states are managed. Anyone with a high EQ will find legitimate ways to resolve the problems that one has. This includes working to solve issues relating to the actions one is participating in. 5. What did I do when things that were going on around me went wrong? A low EQ person will not have much control over what happens when life goes awry and nothing is going as planned. Someone like this might become emotionally unstable without being able to think about what to do to resolve the problems that have suddenly come about in life. A high EQ person will treat the situation a little differently. That person will think more positively about what is happening. They will look for the silver linings in situations. People who have strong EQs will know what to do when life does not go right. They will think reasonably and rationally about possible solutions. 6. What environment best suits my personality? Everyone has an environment or situation that one truly shines in. A person might do well in a certain part of the office or performing certain tasks, for instance. Maybe someone is better at being romantic than others. High EQ people know that they are strong and are not going to dwell on their faults or issues for long. They are willing to notice that there are many good things happening in their lives and that they want to focus on them. 7. When did my priorities in life change and what did I do to adjust? This last question focuses on things in one's life that might change and become different. When a person's priorities change, the things that they want to do in life will surely change. People must look at what they are doing with their lives to see how well they can adjust their attitudes and feelings towards whatever might be happening in their lives. Conclusion. It is often difficult for people to determine where they are going in their lives if they don't have control of their emotions. It is through a person's emotions that someone can share what he or she is feeling or establish a guide for how to behave and act in society. Knowing what it takes to develop strong emotions and to feel comfortable with them is a necessity for living. It is through this that people can feel better about their lives and ready to take on the world. Emotional intelligence gives a person the ability to understand how to coexist in harmony with others they encounter in their lives. Those who have a high EQ can do more in life and grow as an individual. More importantly, that person will share their ideas with others. People will take those ideas seriously and will especially benefit if they are sensible. When working to build one's emotional intelligence, it is necessary to look at everything being done in the process. This includes analysis of how well a person is aware of one's emotions, how to keep emotions under control, knowing how to manage various social situations, reflecting on the issues that come about within one's emotions, realizing that many people have emotions of their own, knowing what causes people to develop the emotions they experience. Be sure to review this guide often to understand how emotions are involved in every situation and decision in life. Knowing how to manage one's emotions is a vital part of success in life and making the most of it. People who work on their emotional intelligence levels just might find some things about themselves that they never knew. The exciting discoveries that come about by noticing how to handle emotions are truly intriguing.